This party started right
Now, welcome to Roundabout Cast, episode 64, the real one this time.
64 Epsilon Delta.
64 plus 1.
one for every Nintendo.
We're at the midpoint check-in for our lives. That's what this podcast is about.
Oh shit!
So we go to 120 whatever and die?
Yeah, somewhere around there.
128. Cool.
That's when one of us has a kid.
Jesus. Who's it gonna be?
Clock's ticking.
It's gonna be Bradley. What are we saying?
You don't know that.
Oh, I know everything. All right, guys. We have a stacked podcast because it's been a while since we recorded. I hope y'all didn't miss our voices and maybe faces if I feel up to it. Who wants to start their small topics and what they've been up to these past 2 or 3 weeks?
Shit. I've still been watching Ranking of Kings. I still stand that show's going to probably be the best anime that comes out this year. Even if Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2 comes out this year, I don't think it's going to be better than Ranking of Kings.
That's what you said last time.
Unless Ranking of Kings has a Season 2. I stand by that.
Oh, so if Ranking of Kings Season 2 comes out this year, it will be...
No. If Ranking of Kings has a second season, it's going to not be that good of a show.
Because he wants it to be done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have the context. You might be right. Just knowing Tyler, I just feel like fighting you. I feel like when you say shit, I just want to fight it. That's just...
Yeah, that's about right.
Antagonizer. That's the word I was looking for.
Tyler Tangent. That's what we call him.
Hey, rough, emotional day for Joe.
All right, so Tyler's starting. Well, you don't really have any topics, do you, aside from Ranking of Kings?
I sure don't. I have not been up to too much.
Do you wanna? Did you talk about finishing Harry Potter?
Yeah.
I don't know. I did finish Harry Potter.
I put Harry Potter as always, but I don't know if I did that jokingly or if we.
All right, I finished Harry Potter. Finished the 8th movie.
Yes.
That was Deathly Hallows. That was the last 2 movies, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Last 2 movies are the best movies in the entire series. Everybody's wrong because they're the only movies that have actual relevant plot and character growth. Just saying. There's a story in those last 2 movies.
Is that true, Bradley? They're the only movies with character growth. Is that being truthful?
Here's what I'll say. I think the vast majority of the character growth in Harry Potter is loaded on to the last couple books, 6 and 7.
Mm-hmm.
You said books. I'm not talking about books.
Yeah.
I'm talking about strictly movies.
Oh, that's upsetting.
That's the only thing I can even get close to saying good about the last 2 movies.
Wow.
That wasn't even a direct compliment.
See, I don't get what the beef is, man. They actually have things that they're doing in this movie.
I will say, I watched the first half of this movie with Tyler.
You say first half. Do you mean part 1 or do you mean the first half?
I mean the first half of part 2. So my watch order goes 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. First half is 8, and then I'm gonna have to restart. I watched 2 also somewhere along there again.
Wow, you saw some major spoilers for the second half of, or the last half of part 7-1. Definitely Hollow 1.
Here's the thing, and this might be a credit to Tyler's point. I don't know if I did. I don't know if I saw any spoilers. Aside from they're honey horcruxes, which I've known about since I was a teenager. So,
see, I didn't know about that. Look, all I'm saying...
we've talked about how you've lived under an actual rock for pop culture, so...
Dude, the last 2 movies, I feel like if I just watched, the first movie and then came back, I don't know. I feel like 4 out of the movies just don't even apply to the fucking overarching plot. You only needed 15 minutes of the Half-Blood Prince, really? In kids' books terms, it makes sense. Okay, kids' books, yeah. It's good. It's good for kids. But nice. You want a cohesive plot movie? There shouldn't have been 8 Harry Potter movies. That's
there
just all I'm saying.
Harry Potter movies.
What, Joe?
There were 8 Harry Potter.
Yeah, I said there shouldn't have been.
Stop talking about Harry Potter.
Yeah, okay, you know what? We used to be a Harry Potter podcast. No longer. We're done.
No longer.
We're done with Harry Potter.
It's because the movies.
You know
just
what?
make
Harry
you
Potter's
so
cursed because every time we talked about it, the recording gets fucked.
Wait, yeah, hold on. Okay, we're still good. But he's not wrong. Okay, next up, Joe, you have some stuff here.
Yeah. So Warhammer 3 came out. I'm not going to talk about it because I'm only 2.5 campaigns through it, which
That's
is
like 50 hours. I'm not ready to talk about it. It's only been 50 hours.
it's actually 67. But like each campaign is just different when it comes to the gameplay side of things. Like you really have to take them from a different. It's not like Civ where you are playing the same civilization with different buffs. It's like there's an entire faction who doesn't use the same infrastructure as the entire rest of the game, and rather than like upgrading buildings, everything's on a clock where every turn it changes into a completely different building and you have to time things out.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wait, that's hilarious. So it's on
Yeah,
a cycle.
like-
It's like, this is our chance to get wood for these 2 hours.
No, like quite literally, you will have turns that like you'll be like, all right, 2 turns from now, my economy is going to crash. So I need to disband some dudes so I don't go into bankruptcy.
Gotta get the wood tokens to win the game.
What'd you say?
So you have to get the wood tokens to win the game.
It's true.
But I thought you had to play the Don Quixote card.
Yeah.
This is too deep of a pool. We need to move on.
I have a lot of criticism about Warhammer 3, but
Really?
I'm gonna save. Yeah, I do. But like, they're very well known criticisms for the game. I still think the game is great. It's I'm gonna definitely be thinking.
We're going to hold Joe to this next podcast. He's got to do his proper review.
I'll do it. I'll do it next week. I'm going to start up. I haven't done so I have done a monster campaign, a demon campaign. I need to do a humans campaign, and then I'll give a extensive review, I think.
But is it everything you dreamed of aside from your complaints?
It's everything that I expected it to be. Everything that I will get will come later, which is what I expected. I think that's a lot of people are upset about because they don't like to read news.
So stuff is not out yet? Like, it's not a full release, really? Let's call a spade a spade?
Yeah, so like the big kind of draw of Warhammer is that your past 2 game like purchases roll over to this game eventually, and they'll be in one big combined map. That doesn't come out yet, but they said it at the beginning that we will not have the combined map until later down the road because the last time they did that, it fucked everything up in the game.
Dude, this sounds like the kind of mechanic that's never coming out. This seems like a mechanic that they talk about. And
It came out last game.
Okay.
And yeah, no, this is like the big selling point of the game. It's 100%.
That
It's like
sounds
the first,
ridiculous.
Yeah, it'll be crazy. So basically, prepare for 2 reviews of Warhammer 3, the base game and the combined game.
Coming later this year, hopefully.
Yeah.
For Joe.
It should be. Fingers crossed. But also I participated in the Texas Grandmasters GT in Dallas for Warhammer Age of Sigmar, which is the actual tabletop game. It was tons of fun. It was my first ever like big tournament. I've done like locals at like my hobby shop back home with my parents, or my parents live.
You got a new home now, bud.
Yeah, I think they had 100 contestants there with different armies. But it was basically I brought a minor league army to a major league baseball tournament. So and I knew that going in. So I was just going for my 1 win and I got it. I was like, great. My weekend is set. I really don't care what else happens. I had a great time. It's reinvigorated my want to go and play the game more. And
That's
I met
cool.
some people that are part of the commission and part of like the club system in Texas. By the way, Texas has its own like Aegis Sigmar club ranking things that's official. Like it's basically like we have different football clubs across the state that compete in different regions.
Dude, are you gonna go professional, Joe? Just pick a
No,
top tier.
never.
Just pick a top tier.
Yeah,
that
it's
easy.
true. I'll spend $4,000 every year chasing meta because that's how Warhammer works.
Why the fuck?
I'm making an exaggeration. It's not $4,000, but it's definitely like if you wanted to change an army every year, it'd be close to probably like $600.
As someone
so.
who's been playing Yu-Gi-Oh and looking into decks, it's cool
Yeah.
when you watch a video and they're talking about like the physical decks they take to their locals, and they're like, "Yeah, I'm running these 3 copies because I can't afford to run the alternative better cards." And I'm like, "That's wild." Like that.
Dude, they, like 3 copies, each one costs $150.
Yeah.
Can't run the
So-
Forbidden Droplets; they're too expensive right
Nope.
now.
So, fun fact: the guy that won this tournament is the
Gaijo.
is one of the owners / managers of my home store back in Katy. Real nice dude, super competitive. He's also one of the commissioners for the whole league, basically. And then the co-owner who got second place won what is essentially the World Series of this game a few weeks ago with with a completely different army.
And he was
Yeah.
there. And he was there.
Yeah, it's called LVO. It's in Las Vegas. That happens every year.
No,
except
he
for
was
COVID.
he was in the Texas
He
tournament.
got second place. He took a completely different army that wasn't even close to what he brought originally to the other match, and he got second place.
Damn.
I mean,
Like-
he had to, man. People were probably going to be like, look at this guy's army that he used to win. They probably like set up
I
to
had to
counter
fight
him.
that army that someone else ran. It's a horseshit army.
Bradley and I went to a small Smash Brothers tournament in Austin one time, and a player by the name of Elegant showed up for no reason. It was such a small tournament and cleaned house. He's the best Luigi in the world.
Dude, that was crazy.
It's pretty funny.
Also, there was a guy there who stank so bad.
I mean,
oh my god.
it's a meme that the Smash Brothers community doesn't shower. And look, all I'm saying is, out of my,
It's not even a meme. It's just reality.
it's just kind of true, man.
Yeah, it's really funny, and it's upsetting that like they in their rules they post that if we have complaints about how your hygienics, we will kick you out and you'll be disqualified.
Oh hell yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Which I think is just should be standard for everything, but like it's kind of upsetting.
Standard for life.
Dude,
Yeah.
here's the move. You pay a dude. He goes out to his lunch break. You pay a dude to just come spray him with skunk spray, and
Yeah.
Oh god.
like a Yu-Gi-Oh
Oh.
tournament plotline.
I also think it's really funny that all the people that run these events are like big and buff and like are just like jacked.
Warhammer's that meme of like the dudes in the bodybuilding forum who are really muscly and are typing shirtless and like, "You got it, king," and they're just being super positive and kind.
Yeah, but super nice dudes. It was a great time overall. There's probably gonna be another one in the summer that is basically the Grand Texas Championship, and then they also have the more casual 2 versus 2 league where it's doubles, which will be fun. I'll just have to find a partner or something. Yeah, Tyler, you want to start your goblins? We'll do it. That won second place.
Yo,
That lists
let's go.
you know how we were talking about, and you wanted to get the big dude and a bunch of gobos or a
Yeah.
bunch of twigs. That's what he did, and he almost won.
Yeah, man, I just know how to pick what's going to be meta out the gate.
Yep.
Trap chicks looking ass.
But it was a
Dude,
great
I
time.
didn't know.
It was a great time. I really enjoyed it. The one complaint I have is painting. I hate that I have to paint so much to compete because anything you don't have fully painted is taken off the table and counts as dead as soon as the game starts. But it's part of the hobby, so whatever. I also watched Yu-Gi-Oh! Dark Side Dimensions. I give that movie a solid 4 out of 10, but a solid 10 out of 10 for memes.
Is that the one where Kaiba resurrects Atom so he can fight
He
him?
tries to, and they're like, "No, he's actually dead, you idiot."
Okay, but doesn't he make like a computer? I don't know the plot, but
he makes a computer program that fully like is his full deck and strategy down to like as much as he can, and he gets to a point where he can beat it over and over again, and he's just like, "This is fucking boring. I want the real thing."
Great movie.
maybe Kaiba's not as cool as I always think he
Wait.
is.
I thought Dark Side of Dimensions is the one where they all the protagonists hang out and kiss.
Oh, is
With the what?
No, that's Bonds Beyond Time, maybe.
Oh, that makes sense. There's
Why
one.
does Bradley know all the Yu-Gi-Oh movies?
Man, shut up.
I know these by concept. I've never watched them, but I know the one. Like, there's one that goes up to 5D or Arc V that has like all those protagonists.
Dude, 5Ds.
Bro, I've played more Yu-Gi-Oh than all of y'all. I have no idea what the fuck y'all are talking about.
You actually know
That's the thing.
we know the culture. You know the actual game. You
I watched the show. I didn't really play the card game that much.
Austin and I watched that after our concert on Sunday, so it was just a good way to recover from our drunkenness. Also, Seto Kaiba is the biggest jackass to ever create utopian society. Like,
good for him.
He's so hot.
Like, the whole world functions on a children's card game miraculously,
that's fucking
and
dope.
that's all. That's all he can think about and wants to do.
I wish our real world conflicts could be settled with card games.
I mean,
but,
at least he cares about the world. He just sit back and like, I'm gonna make all this money.
Yeah, Kaiba has fire lines from time to time. It's kind of great. It's so silly.
Meta this, meta that. Have you ever met a fucking girl before?
Yeah.
I love that voice actor is great.
That's all I got. Yeah.
Bradley, you got anything? Nothing.
Dude, I've been playing obsessive amounts of Legends of Runeterra lately.
Oh, yeah.
I like the game way better than I used to. I think the last time I was playing it this much is when it came out. And I think at the time it came out, there was just... I think there were just too little cards. Like, there was one or two deck types that were just like objectively the best, and if you weren't playing that deck type, or you weren't dedicating your entire deck to countering it, like, you were just gonna lose.
Yeah.
Now, like,
the meta wasn't diverse enough.
yeah, there's so much now that it feels like you really can kind of go anything you want. And it really just astounds me how well they recreate MOBA movesets inside, like, cards.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I've just been really having a blast. Kindred is a very cool card.
I feel the same way about Teppen. Like, the way that they translate the characters into card effects is dope.
Card game's cool, man.
And,
So, yeah.
like, we've been playing a lot of card games. I watched Bradley play Runeterra, and I was like, maybe I kind of could play it again.
Yeah.
But then, like, Willer, like, he started playing Yu-Gi-Oh! And this is, like, your first time playing Yu-Gi-Oh!, right?
So I played some of Legacy of the Duelist. But hold on, Bradley, did you have anything else to say about Runeterra? Because we'll talk about Yu-Gi-Oh! Because that's one of the quick talks.
Praise. It's fun. They made it good.
Nice. What deck are you playing? Kindred?
Is
that a sentence I can say? What deck are you like?
Yeah. So my two newest decks is I have one deck that is like entirely dedicated to Kindred, and I have another deck that is a mix of Poppy, Lulu, and Braum.
Your three favorite characters, yep.
Yeah, and they involve like getting a bunch of small minions around them and then just like buffing them up to make them unstoppable.
Nice.
And I don't know, it's really cool.
But yeah, as Tyler was saying, since last podcast, I went hard on this Yu-Gi-Oh thing, and it's
by the way, the season reset today.
Yeah, and maybe I'll climb, but goddamn, they need another battle pass for that game. That battle pass is 90 days. It's going to be 4 seasons until the first battle pass ends.
Holy shit!
They did not think that one through. Hopefully, the next one's 30 days.
They didn't think a lot of the rewards through.
Yeah, but yeah, this is my first time actually fighting people in Yu-Gi-Oh! I played a lot of the single player of Legacy of the Duelist, and I like that. That's how I'm able to kind of jump in. It kind of taught me about link summons and pendulums, all the things that people meme about of Yu-Gi boomers not knowing.
You were having such a bad fucking time at the start there.
I was having a
boomers.
Yu-Gi boomers is the term they use, yes.
Oh my god, I love it.
You're a Yu-Gi boomer, for example.
Yeah.
You just don't know yet. Yeah, you are. But I was having a bad time because this game is awful about its UX and telling you what's stopping you and what a card... Like, oh my god, if they could just bold words on a card, that would save you minutes in a duel. Like,
I think there was one time where I think I was playing you or I was playing Tyler, and I was trying to figure out what the fuck was targeting a card on the field.
So I gaslit you that time, to be fair, but it was difficult.
I figured it out though.
Yeah.
I knew you were trying to trick me. I was like, no, there's an icon that's saying this is getting targeted. One of your shits is targeting me. I found it.
What happened is I linked a graveyard effect off of yours, a chained rather.
Yeah.
So it wasn't targeting it, but I was doing a thing off of it.
No, one of your things targeted one of my cards.
Yeah, it was the infantry was gonna kill it.
Yeah,
I'm
and
so
then I think
naughty.
I miscellaneous sword or I did something. But I was just like, what is happening? And and like what I really like is they have a side thing that comes out and you can read like, oh, here's all these things. But even that gets clogged up because it shows you every step.
The killer is when it's like, hey, after this effect for the rest of your turn, blank happens, and like there's no indicator. That could be way up the stack, and your turn is now 15 cards deep, and it's like, oh, right, that thing from way back then is still passively affecting the board. It's
part of the meta right now is making a deck that has too many cards to read where people just don't even read what's happening.
That's
just Yu-Gi-Oh, boy.
That's the strategy. But yeah, they need a bold words, Yu-Gi boy. But since then, I think we, like me, our friend Keith and Tyler, like, were spending some late nights playing Yu-Gi-Oh. That was really fun.
It's fun. There was a post that like went through all the different card games, and they're like, Yu-Gi-Oh is fun to play, but it's not the game you come to for like the big strategic depth you want to do.
It's Marvel versus Capcom 2. It is so stupid. Everything is hyper.
Yeah.
Most of the characters are ass, but like they'll still fuck you up if they touch you. It's weird.
Also, the longest short games of all time because there is a long portion of time where you are literally doing nothing, cannot do anything.
Yeah, you're supposed to play Pokemon Arceus in companion to this game. Like that's how you play this game because
I could grind and do another Total War campaign while someone is taking their turn. Probably just.
Yeah, that's where that game's at. I'm running a virtual world deck for my meta deck, but I also managed to get my Mermail deck, which is an untiered deck to Platinum 5, and I'll take that. Tyler's got some naughty decks.
I accidentally got Trap Tricks to Platinum, which, like, here's the thing. Getting the Platinum's one thing. I think getting the Platinum 1
Getting the Platinum 1's a different thing, for sure.
But, like, playing the game up to Platinum is really fun because everybody is doing different decks. Everybody is trying different stuff. Like, I play like a War Rock deck, and I play archetypes I've never even heard of, and I'm like, that's really cool.
It's like in gold tier, you get the variety. In when you're approaching platinum, you get like the lower end of the meta, where you're getting the fun part of like, okay, I need to learn how to fight this deck I keep running into. And then once you go into like Plat 5, it's like meta. Like, you gotta really know how to fight these decks, and if you can't, you're probably gonna stick to Platinum because you can't D-rank from there at that point. But yeah,
I do like you can't D-rank from tiers. That's
you can actually, as I found out, it's rare. Like, you have to lose a lot. I went on an 11-game lose streak. Before I introduced the hand traps to my deck.
Yeah,
but such is life. Fun game. And then
I play dinosaurs. That's it.
That's Joe.
They need to not only release a new battle pass, they really need to fucking add the rest of the cards into the game.
It's not gonna happen. Not for another year and a half.
No, there's no way. Even like this game is running better than Duel Links, from what I hear. Like, they're treating it better, so that's cool. What's The Big Short? I know that's a movie. Who did that?
Oh, that's me.
Yeah, hello.
Yeah, that's a good movie.
I'm like starting to plan to potentially buy a house at some point in the future. And so I got really like onto like what happened in 2008 with the housing economy collapsed. Because if you're an adult trying to look for a house at this time and you make anywhere between $80,000 to $100,000, you're kind of fucked right now because you can't afford to buy a home.
Yeah.
Unless you're like way out of the hot areas.
Even then, like, just houses are fucking ridiculous. So I watched The Big Short, which was a good little movie that, like, really gives a weird insight to the
housing crisis.
Yeah. from 2008. It's a very entertaining piece of it.
That,
It's based off of real events.
That director directed another really good movie that's kind of like that kind of fast pace.
It's not Wolf of Wall Street, is it?
I don't think so. I want to say it's not Moneyball, is it? Look it up, Joe, but keep going.
It might be Moneyball.
I think it's Moneyball.
I think it's Moneyball.
It's got the director is Adam McKay. Don't Look Up.
Don't Look Up and other
That's
guys.
that's what it was. Yeah. Okay.
And Step Brothers.
Yeah. Good 4 movies right there, all of equivalent value.
And Ant-Man and Talladega Nights and Anchorman. Is this guy the best director of our time?
This is your favorite director, Tyler. You didn't even know it.
This is the best. Scorsese is crying in his boots.
He also did Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters 2
So
lordy.
as a producer. Sorry, he produced Don't Look Up. He didn't direct it.
Oh,
I think he did.
still.
He did. Anyways, did you like The Big Short?
Yeah, The Big Short was good. It was very entertaining. I've seen clips of it over the time, but like, I really like the 3-4 different character viewpoints we get of it, and it's all about the plot of like they all kind of come across this one guy's like research and studies about him predicting that the economy is going to collapse, and then like one group. So it's like this guy discovers that he predicts it. Everybody's like, no, you're absolutely ridiculous. Nobody's going to believe you. And that's Christian Bale predicts that. Mm-hmm. And then, like Steve Carell, they own a money firm that like makes investments for people.
Yeah, I think they're an investment firm. And so they decide to do shorting for this stint. And shorting is like the opposite of investing. It's you betting that it's going to fail, basically.
Yeah. So, and then also it follows another group of like rising investors. These 2 kids who got an investment company like out of the garage, and so follows these 3 different groups. And it's like Christian Bale is constantly fighting against like his multi-billion-dollar investors that are a part of his company. His company's like borderline going out of business, and like he keeps marking up on the board every day like, we're down like 42% and everything. And so then like Steve Carell's group is actually like going to these places where the like actual economy is collapsing and the housing market is collapsing. And like he's talking to real estate investors, like mortgage loaners and all these different groups of people like trying to be like, is this real? Like he's actually going out and getting all the facts. And then like Brad Pitt gets associated with those little like indie investor kids, and he like introduces them to the world of big banking, and they're like, we want to get rich, and basically he like helps them get rich, and he's like, now I want out. He's like he never wanted to be in it, and gets these 2 kids rich, and they're like, yeah, we kind of hate ourselves now because look at all these people. Like, yeah, we're rich, but look at all these people who are about to lose their homes because of all these foreclosures and shit. Yikes. And like Steve Carell, he holds on to his shares the whole time because he's like, I don't even remember. It's like
Steve Carell's brother committed suicide because of like some investment scheme.
Yeah, and so
part of his thing is that he wants to like stick it to the man, basically. So he's trying to like squeeze him out for as much money as possible up until the end.
Yeah,
if I'm remembering that correctly.
And then like the entire movie ends with like Christian Bale like at his company. So Christian Bale's this like surfer dude who owns this investment firm, and he's just like a doctor who's like really smart, and like his multi-billion-dollar investors have pulled out. All of his people are like suing him that are a part of his company, and like it shows his like shit, like his like revenue or whatever, or like investments are down like 58% because he has to like come up with this insurance that says. He creates this new like housing mortgage insurance that he insures these bonds or something, and that if they go broke he gets made a shit ton of money. No, that's like what happens. And so at the end of the movie, everything goes shits up, and like it like ends with him like marking up like on his board like he's leaving his company office where he's marking the negatives the whole time. At the end of the movie, it's like 487% plus.
He made 489% for the company, and he walked out with $489 million like in his pocket, basically.
Yeah.
Like, that was his commission.
the movie really likes to highlight, like, I said a lot of words right there, and I don't always know what I'm talking about. I always often highlight how I'm really bad with money.
Yeah.
But those are the right words because the movie talks about how it is, like, the economy is designed to confuse the everyday people so that the money can stay in the people who make up the words' pockets.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a head for all that, like, also, which leads me to my topics, because I'm going to do some quick wrap-ups on stuff I talked about last podcast, but the new thing I want to bring in is Succession, which is a TV show that's currently 3 seasons deep. I watched it off of our friend Keith's recommendation, and then he did Euphoria. So I've watched 1 season. It's the show of a, like, Fox News style media empire who the head of the family, it's a family run business, the head falls under an accident, and they're kind of trying to, one of the sons is trying to remove him from power because he is going to drive the company to the ground or do something embarrassing, because, like, this accident that the father had is causing him to kind of lose face, kind of his mind's going a little bit as it's all happening, and he's like a bad day away from making the company's stocks just completely crash. And also the company has billions of debt, so it's all fun and games. All the children are horribly fucked up from having that rich white money, like, to the most extravagant degree. Where one of the funniest characters in the show is Macaulay Culkin's brother. He plays the character of Roman, and he's hilarious, but also he's such a douchebag. He thinks the world revolves around him, and he like talks big, but doesn't, like, when it's time for him to actually run parts of the company, he completely fails. There's this very funny bit about him trying to do a rocket launch, and he's like, "Oh, is Dad here to talk about the rocket launch?" And they're like, "Roman, no one cares about this. Like, he gave that to you as, like, a pity job." And then the rocket explodes, and he's like, "Oh my God, did people die?" And then, like, they find out that, oh, they lost a couple fingers and an arm, and he's like, "Oh, thank God, it's just some fingers and an arm." But all the characters are various amounts of fucked up. My favorite character, for anyone curious, is the one of Greg. Greg is a cousin of the family whose grandpa is the brother of the main dad, but he's a very hippie leftist who completely is against everything that the company stands for. But Greg gets kind of roped into the company, and he's, like, falling his way backwards into higher and higher positions in, like, a very funny and endearing way, which makes him my front runner for, like, a character I want to see. The main character is really the son Kendall, who is kind of trying to out the dad and kind of defeat the dad. Kendall had, like, a drug problem in the past, and now he's trying to overcome that, but, like, he doesn't get, like, a fair shot, even though he's a pretty good leader when he's not stressing out about the fact that all the chips are against him. The season ends in kind of a fucked up way for Kendall, where it's like, wow, Kendall won, and then one bad scene happens, and Kendall's like, I have to give up now because I'm under my father's thumb in the worst way. And that felt a little contrived. But I don't understand a lot of the business moves that are happening, but the characters and the writing will just bring you along, even if you're not, like, fully following all the business steps, which I try not to. I'm in it for kind of the writing of other things. Good show, recommend it. Excited to start season 2 soon. Aside from that, I finished that Chucky show I was talking about. Very fun show, good ending.
Oh boy.
Looking forward. #1 Chucky fan, according to Bradley over here.
I guess so.
#1, I guess, which is funny. I haven't seen any of the Chucky movies, so when they start, like,
referencing stuff.
There's this episode where this very hot lady turns out she's possessed by Chucky, which is something that happened in the most recent Chucky movie. And, like, she snaps out of, like, Chucky mode, and she's like, "Oh my God, I killed a person, there's blood in my hands." And then Chucky's bride is the actress, what's her name, like, Linda Tilder or something, Tiller? But, like, okay, Chucky's bride takes over the body of the in-universe real-life actress that plays her.
What the fuck?
If you get what I'm saying. So, like, that actress exists in the universe, and Chucky's bride has possessed her.
Yeah.
So, like, that character is still in the plot, and she shows back up, and she comes and moves into the town of Hacky Sack, Hacky Sack is what it's called.
It took me a minute to get what you were saying.
It's weird, right?
Yeah.
But she shows up, and they're like, "Oh my god, leading actress Lindsay Tilder or whatever is here," and it's Chucky's wife. It's hilarious. So like she's having sex with the possessed Chucky hot girl, and it's like. She snaps back to herself. It's like, Chucky, what's going on? And the girl has to play Chucky and pretend like she's Chucky. Meanwhile, so Chucky split himself into Horcruxes in the past, apparently. So, like, one of his souls is in the girl, one of the souls is in the child, and if Chucky, or in the doll, and if Chucky doll can corrupt a child, it lets him do more voodoo that lets him split his soul into more Horcruxes. So, the threat near the end is Chucky's gonna corrupt one of the kids and split his soul into a whole 72 Chucky children, and then send those dolls out into the world, and they're all gonna cause mayhem.
Fun.
Wait, so this is in the show. This isn't like the Chucky fan Tumblr wiki. Right?
This is stuff that shows up in the show, and I know this exists now because it's all the show. And I'm like,
damn.
Okay, so the main kid from the first Chucky, and I guess the second Chucky must have had a girl. Those two characters are grown up now, and they're in the new show as adults, and they're hunting down all the remnants of Chucky and killing them. So there's only one Chucky Horcrux left.
The word remnants of Chucky.
It's crazy.
I gotta fucking watch this show.
It's actually super fun. I really liked it.
Oh my god.
The biggest Chucky fan was given a shit ton of money, and he's like, "Yo, I'm about to go off."
It's directed by the original Chucky guy.
Yeah,
so,
the biggest Chucky fan.
The biggest Chucky fan is the creator of Chucky, so you're right.
Lord have mercy.
Funny shit, man. Funny Horcruxes, man. I couldn't believe it. Super fun.
That's crazy.
I remember that Cruel Summer show. I was 2 episodes of finishing it. That show fucking blows. That is a bad show. Don't watch it.
Cool.
Do you want? So I told you the premise of a girl gets kidnapped and another girl gets blamed, and the show's in 3 time periods. Of how they met, the time where she was kidnapped, and then the current court proceedings between the 2 girls. The plot is, and I'm gonna spoil it because you shouldn't watch it. Also, I'm echoing from somewhere, probably Tyler or Joe.
I
Probably
mute myself.
Yeah, Joe. I don't want to hear myself. Editing this is hard enough. So, the plot turns out that, okay, the girl that got kidnapped ran away from home and started living with the kidnapper. They fell in love. He wouldn't let her escape because it's I'm a school vice principal. They can't know you've been living here. It's just yeah, they think I'm missing, and if I showed back in town right now, they'd be really sus that I just show back up and you're going to get in trouble. So it's a love story between them. This is all revealed in the best episode, which is episode 9. And that turns toxic as she's like, dude, I haven't been out of the house in a year and a half. Can I maybe leave? And he's like, no. So it turns abusive and turns into a proper kidnap situation. And then so she says, hey, the girl main character saw me in the basement and didn't tell anyone so she could steal my life. What happened was the girl shows up, walks into the house because her dad's the realtor, so she has a key to the house, and she goes in to steal shit sometimes for pranks. Kidnap girls in the second floor, they kind of miss each other. She runs out and sees the girl drive off in the bike, but she drove off in the wrong bike. Rather, she saw the girl's friend who drove off in the girl's bike. Anyways, there's a bike switcheroo. She's like, I thought that was your bike, so I thought that was you. So it wasn't actually her. And then the season stinger is you find out there was a time where the girl went into the house and she could hear the other girl through the door. And she's like, hey, my name's what's-her-face, please let me out if you're out there. And then she chose not to tell her. So after all, she did know she was there all along, so the main character's a bitch who knew she was there, and it's revealed as a stinger. And it's unfortunately, the show was so ass that the stinger does nothing. I saved you some time. It's rough, man. And then I watched the new season of Ozark, which I've talked before. The Ozark is not a very good show. I think people really like it because it's very tense. And Patrick Bateman is such a fun character in the show because he's always got his jaw clenched as he's holding it together. he's trying to be very calm as like Breaking Bad shit is happening to him. But the thing that always gets me about this show is how like artificial all the drama is, and we're gonna talk about Breaking Bad later. But like this tries to be Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul so hard, and it goes out of its way. Like there's this character Darlene who kills multiple characters throughout the series and just gets away with it because like she kills a character so the plot gets tougher, and she never sees her comeuppance, and people are just killing people left and right. There's a dude who pushes his wife down a hill just to move the plot forward. And it's like cool, great. Anyways, show's all right, not that good. And then finally, Euphoria finished. This season of Euphoria, man, Euphoria is a tough show to talk about. I don't like being a fan of Euphoria because multiple reasons. I don't think the fan base. It's a show, and this is also something that was true about Breaking Bad. It's a show that got too big for what it's trying to do, where a lot of tweens are watching this show and then just not paying attention, so the conversation is all memes and like.
They missed the point, maybe.
I think the show does a very good job that tells you should not be Zendaya. The show is the greatest anti-drug PSA of all time. So that take is very misconstrued by the media. It's like it glamorizes drugs. Episode 5 of this season shows how destructive that shit is to Zendaya. The problem is like there's stuff like this character didn't have a plot line this season. It's like, yeah, we're focusing on other characters. Like trying to force a plot line for every character is how you get CW tier writing, where the main love interest has been in 7 different jobs, has loved 3 different people, was the bad guy for 2 seasons. Like,
yeah,
let the show move organically. But that being said, it's not without its problems, because I think the plot of season 2 is just less captivating as season 1, where season 1's very tight and concise. Season 2 does really good with some characters, but kind of leaves a lot either unresolved or ends it kind of mad. Like the season finale is pretty whelming, while the season finale for season 1 was pretty good. The penultimate episode has a very fun play that makes no... Like, it's the most high-budget school play of all time, and it's really entertaining to watch. It's the director trying to flex, really, is what that episode was.
You haven't seen Sex Education school play. That one's a doozy.
No, Joe, this is insanity. This is like movie budget for the play. I'll watch Sex Education one day. So yeah, I think there was still a lot of good writing in season 2, but I feel like it wrapped up kind of weakly. And I think season 3 should probably be the last one at this point. The show's gotten too big, and also the plot can't progress much. So we'll see how they introduce new things, but that's not coming out for another 3 years, so I'll check in with them. But that's all my quick talks. I'll say I finished Dark Souls 2, very good game. A little too long, but I've said it before, I don't understand the criticisms of this game. It has better areas and better bosses than Dark Souls 1. That's almost categorical, but people are like, it's harder. The one thing it's got worse is like there's too many enemies in the Scholar of the First Sin edition. So some rooms are like, you're fighting a fucking mini Muso in this room, and it's really frustrating. Okay, we have like 3-ish big topics, so it's not too bad. But we should probably talk about Pokemon Arceus now, because it had to only barely come out when we first talked about it. Now we can have like full impressions. I think this is one of the best Pokemon game. This is what I've circled back around to. I know Tyler's also played a lot of this.
Yeah, I just like I really want to talk about it too, but we're not good podcasters because our adult lives are catching up to us, so we just don't have time to finish games. At least I don't.
I mean, that's why it's like the 3-week break between. I mean, I don't have to finish this game to have an opinion on it.
Oh, there. I think it's been really great, and I actually am kind of excited. I hope, because we just got the teaser for Scarlet and what's the other color?
Violet.
Violet, yeah, the Doflamingo kids or whatever. Not Doflamingo.
No, you're right. No, those are King Riku's kids. You're right.
King Riku kids. So it like we got the teaser for that, and like they show the open world like we had in Sword and Shield a little bit, but it still kind of has that like little bit of a vibe like it might be leaning more towards.
It looks pretty Arceus to me.
It looks pretty Arceus, and I'm like,
I picture
I
it is. You know how Arceus is like a big zone that's pretty much open world, It's gonna be like slightly smaller versions are gonna be the routes between cities, is how I picture it.
Yeah. I really enjoyed Arceus. I like the simplified combat system. I hope that doesn't carry over to Scarlet and Gen 9.
Yeah, I talked about how the combat system is fun for what it is, but I want the quickness of it to carry over, maybe.
Yeah, I think the combat system is good for a spin-off game. Yeah. That's what it should be. It's very simplified. They didn't have to do abilities. They didn't need to do held items because it's not the main point of the game. The main point of the game is to catch all the Pokemon, which I don't know when we've had a Pokemon game that it's like, I'm gonna become the champion, and it's like, no, you gotta catch all the Pokemon, just do them all.
All. You're still fighting gym leaders. They're just big, glowing Dark Souls bosses now.
They're Pokemon. They're not gym leaders. They're Pokemon.
You're the third.
They're Pokemon.
They're the big gym. You got to do the big gym fights and then go fight the evil villain. I don't know if there is an evil villain. I imagine
they're totem battles.
Yeah, they're totem battles.
They're totem battles.
Which are the best battles?
Which are gym leaders. When
they're
you get
Pokemon.
Down to
no, Pokemon do not have badges.
Wonderful.
They give you 5 marks. You have 5 badges in this game for all intents and purposes.
Anyway, it's a good game. It sucks that it came out a week or like a month apart from Elden Ring.
Yeah,
man. Yeah.
Real bummer.
Yeah.
Because first quarter for all of us.
I can't picture they haven't announced. I saw some Breath of the Wild 2 and God of War. I don't see anything else coming out this year unless they're like, hey, P6 dropping
Pokemon
in November.
These
oh my
Pokemon
god,
games.
another Pokemon game.
Pokemon.
Yeah.
But by then, that's gonna be November. I don't know what's happening then. The thing is,
what if they drop form-changing Deoxys in Pokemon Unite?
Yeah, I mean, Unite's an ever-going conversation. Those characters are nuts. By the way, Hoopa came out in Unite. He is the nuttiest MOBA character I might have ever seen.
Pokemon Unite is quickly rising to be my favorite MOBA.
It's stupid.
Man.
So with Arceus, I think the main thing I want them to keep for Scarlet is the Pokedex. That the Pokedex is the game changer, I think, for Arceus. It makes the game actually interesting. It makes catching Pokemon actually interesting. But I am currently in the 4th area. I had been playing the boss fights wrong, which is a bit of a bummer.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't realize you're supposed to throw a ball. After they do their super attack, they stun themselves. I thought I was stunning them with the bombs. That's not the thing. You're just chipping away at their health with the bombs. You're supposed to let them do their super attack, throw your Pokeball, that stuns them, and then the bombs do a shit ton of damage. You've been doing them wrong too.
No. Like where you have the little battle with the Pokemon.
The ones with the big totem fights. I've been doing those wrong.
You throw your Pokemon at it, you have a fight with it, and then it does a big stun, and then you throw a lot more bombs at it.
I thought the bombs were supposed to be doing the stun, so I was like, why is it never stunning? So I was like, I fought Lilligant once. And you're supposed to be fighting them multiple times each fight. Anyways, I think it's a great game. The post-game stuff they added is actually fucking dope. They added
the master battles.
They added a system where you have to use one Pokemon against a set challenge that is created to be hard for that Pokemon. And sometimes it's going to be 1 versus 3.
Dang.
So it's a more interesting reverse of the Let's Go mechanic, where Let's Go you're going to do 1v1s and they're the same Pokemon. I don't think that's interesting, but if I have to use all 250 Pokemons in a challenge specific to them, I think that's cooler. So
it's probably a game that I'm gonna be playing off and on throughout this year, just to get my bits and pieces on.
After Elden Ring, I want to get to that. This seems like the best post game in any Pokemon game.
After Elden Ring comes the Witch Queen.
After Elden Ring comes New Game Plus Elden Ring, to be fair, but
yeah, dude, yeah. I think Witch Queen and Elden Ring came out in the same week.
That's a bummer.
That's the biggest. There's too much. What do I do with all these? I can't hold all these games. I can't hold all
these good games.
I'm just happy I got plenty of time to get a lot of reps into Warhammer 3 before I
did.
Hell yeah!
I'm glad because you've been traveling a lot, so I was like, I don't know when Joe's gonna find time to play.
I got that Monday off, and I literally woke up at 9 o'clock and then played until midnight for that game.
Yeah. I picture this game of the year this year having less games, but a lot of hotly contested battles. So I'm looking forward to that.
Same length though. Same 4 hours.
Yeah. No, impossible. Unless they can't be that heated, surely. Next up,
Surely.
we've all been playing Elden Ring. So let's have our big Elden Ring talk.
It's so
I
fun.
should mention I just started playing Elden Ring literally yesterday.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to play Warhammer 3 more, and then I got to the point now where I was like, all right, I need to put this aside and circle back around to Elden Ring because everyone else is jumping onto it now.
To preface, where 3 of us are on the PS5 version and Bradley's on the PS4 version. PS5 version runs fine. A couple frame drops here and there. Looks great. I like it.
I haven't even got flame drops, I think. Unless if they had been,
They're not noticeable. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. You should definitely be, if you're playing on PlayStation, you should definitely be playing on performance mode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
PlayStation is not strong enough to do pretty mode unless you're like gonna not do combat and you just actually want to like pause the game for a second.
Well,
and look at
it
how
does
pretty
pretty
some shit is.
mode at 30 frames, but man, in a combat game, the frames kind of matter.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some areas where I've gone into settings and like just turned on pretty mode.
Just to look pretty. And then Bradley's playing on a PS4 mode, not even PS4 Pro. Bless his soul.
I mean, good enough for me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's getting the job done. And you said it runs at like a pretty consistent 30, so.
I
I
mean,
mean, Bloodborne runs like shit, and it's a fantastic game, so.
like, it definitely dips down whenever there's, like, if it's, like, a horde of, like, you got, like, 8 soldiers, and then there are 4 dogs, and then, like, the 2 bigger soldiers in the back, and then
there's
a guy.
fire involved.
And usually what happens, it's not like the entire game's frame rate dips down. It's like the enemies furthest in the back, you'll see just their frame rate dips down.
Yeah.
So it's like animating them more slowly than the guys in front. And like, I'm not going to act like it's not noticeable. I just don't really care that much.
Yeah, it's not impacting much.
The performance mode on PS5 runs little bit like a normal Souls game, like on previous gens, like at that 30 FPS. Like it feels like you're playing a normal Souls game.
Yeah.
But the performance mode really, I think, in terms of it doesn't sacrifice too much in terms of quality.
It's still a very pretty game because at the end of the day, it's the art style that they nailed. Like, I'm talking about you step up into that world and you see these cool architectures and the giant Erd tree. The Erd tree is so cool. Like, the big Yggdrasil in the middle of the world is such a cool thing to always just pan your camera and look at. It's like the moon in Bloodborne, which changes throughout the game and, like, is always just there as a presence. As talking about the actual game, wow, I'm blown away by this game. It is so good. It is so well designed, and there's so much content. It's like, I've explained it as the experience I got when I first played Bloodborne with the experience I got when I first played Breath of the Wild. Those are 2 of my most favorite video game experiences, period. Like, and it's doing both of those, where it's like, it's an open world, the exploration, like going places, you have to find stuff yourself, but like the combat also super matters. So the loop of like how exploring helps your combat, but to explore you need to do more combat. It's just so much better than the open world where you just have a bunch of side quests littered throughout the map and you just go from place to place, and then you go to this is where the map tells me to gather plants, and this is where the map tells me to do backpack mission number 7. Like, I much rather this style of gameplay and how Breath of the Wild does it than the traditional open world that I've been super burnt out on.
Collectibles, I think, are an outdated mechanic that need to be like for that 100% because it's just padding. I'd rather you just focus more on like engaging conflicts.
I started my file and then a little bit into it, I think I sent a Discord message. I was like, does every open world game need berry collecting?
Yes. Unfortunately, it's the Video Game Association deems it so.
I've been collecting these berries. I don't know what to do with them. I just have a shit ton.
Dude, I save them until I have like 200 and then I sell most of them.
Oh, you can sell the berries. Interesting.
They're 10 each. So, I mean, it's a little bit of pocket change.
That's something. That's enough to get you over the hump to get a level.
Yeah, like, I mean, it can boost you a couple hundos.
So, okay, this gets to the other really fun part about this experience. We've all collectively just decided to stick within our little Discord where we're like,
yeah.
So
we're sharing tips. We're sharing like playground tips to each other. It's been so fun.
Yeah. I will say, there's a few things about this game to note. We are playing very specifically where we're not looking anything up. Sometimes we get some information like scrolling through Twitter.
I'm watching
thumbnail.
I'm watching my like the one streamer I watch. I'm way ahead of him, so I've started watching his playthrough. So I see some stuff where I'm like, oh, I missed this item in the location I've already been to. But aside from that,
the only thing I look up is when I have a mechanical question of like I don't understand what this means, and then I go look. It's like, oh, okay, I understand.
Yeah, like what is faith scaling on your seal? Like, what does that actually equate up to?
I could ask you, or I could bookmark the sheet that tells me what everything does, so I can just reference it.
Big Brother Willer's over here to help you. Come on.
Yeah, I don't know that.
So it's been really nice. Yeah, like we haven't been looking at where to go, like what types of bosses or anything. And I will say, if you are doing that, I will boldly say you are not having as much fun as we are.
Because like what's really cool for me is I don't know, like I mentioned that, you know, I'm using like big great swords and stuff, and Willer's like, oh my god, Bradley, I know where the coolest great sword is. He's like, you know, this lake, just go south from there and keep going south. You'll know the sword when you see it.
And Bradley, like, 3 times now, has been like, oh, did I get the sword? I was like, there's deeper souths for you to reach, my son.
I keep finding all these great swords, and like, I don't know, I'm having fun on this quest that Willer gave me. Yeah, that's cool.
I'm sending you to a pile of poop at the end of it. It was very Zelda style.
The shit sword.
I really, like, if I was going strength build, I think that would be my main weapon right now. They did such a good job with the weapon. So, like, as a combat, this is easily the best Souls combat. Like, they've taken everything they've learned from every game and combined it into one refined combat with, like, the noteworthiest thing is, like, Dark Souls 3 introduced weapon arts. This game lets you replace a weapon art, and you can keep replacing those weapon arts until you find the one that works the best. And within that weapon art system, you also get to infuse your weapons with elements, which was a huge gamble in old games where, like, you kind of had to do research. It's like, okay, if I make my rapier a poison rapier, is that going to be ass? So you have to go, like, consult the internet before you make these decisions. In this game, you can just try it and you're not punished for it. And I think that's awesome.
I think I might be wrong, but I think there are some also like those rune collectibles on the ground. I think they respawn too, unless I'm completely misremembering
The
that.
rune collectibles.
There's like the rune souls, like the
yeah. He's talking about the minor soul items, the minor humanities, minor souls.
Yeah.
I find those only from
Rune
helping
fragment.
people.
The golden runes.
Oh, yeah, my bad. I mean, okay, so you didn't know what to do with your berries. Have you found the crafting pouch?
I did get the crafting pouch, so I do have that. But
so
I just like that
the berries become horse healing items. I think that's the only thing I found for them so far.
Okay.
Yo, there are some utility items in the game that have become my favorite.
I love utility items.
This is a little spoiler of an item, but I really like the torch, like dual wielding mechanic that they introduced in Dark Souls 2.
Yeah.
In this game, they have something called a lantern, and I love it. It's stupid as shit. It's very basic, but I really enjoy it.
I bet it's from Bloodborne. Is it just a lantern that you have on your pouch, like on your side? Yeah. It's great. Now in Bloodborne, the lantern secretly gives you a stamina debuff, so watch out if it's the same here.
Oh, is that what it does?
It drains your stamina ever so slightly more because you got the lantern turned on.
I really like utility items in games like this. So to break off a little bit, I play a little bit of Horizon Zero Dawn. I think that's the name of the first one.
Not Forbidden West, right?
Not Forbidden West, but Horizon Zero Dawn. And I'll pick it up probably later again this year.
Side note about Forbidden West, I might have even checked that game out. It came out between Arceus and this game. It didn't have a chance.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah. But what I like about that game is that you get your primary weapon is the bow, but that's only the only primary damaging weapon you get that isn't a pick-upable machine gun that they drop later. So everything else you get are utility items, like they're tripwires, they're ropes you can shoot.
Oh, I love that shit. That's so fun.
So you think creatively combat-wise, and that's the best part of that game is when you get into a combat, it's actually engaging and fun. And so, I've noticed like there's a bunch of stuff with that in this game too.
Yeah,
I just haven't.
the crafting system does something really smart. There's something called a crack pot, and that is a
Yeah.
reusable item that lets you fill it with shit, and that's how you like. That way you don't have to worry about running out of bombs or running out of holy orbs. You can craft them and actually use them. I make a lot of the little throwy items just to chip enemies with low health, so I just throw a bunch of little daggers at them if I need to, and that's fun. Something I really like, I never use this item in other Souls games, but I have to use it pretty frequently here, is the rainbow stones you can drop to see if a drop is fatal.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Like, you don't need to
I
have
didn't know
another...
what those were for. I just have them. I'm just like, okay.
Yeah, if you drop that and they explode, that's a death fall. If they don't explode, you're good.
Whenever I get to a message that says jump, I just assume it's bad and don't do it.
The messaging system in this game has been great. I'm actually interacting with it a lot. I've dropped some messages. I got some popular 10 upvote messages. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been having a good time. I think I have not explored that much. Like I've basically stuck in the first area because I haven't I've just been following the guidelines. Mm-hmm. I just killed Margaret like literally before this podcast started. And except for one time where I ran into a character and opened up his box the second time, and got teleported to Bear Country. And that was not fun.
Yeah, I killed that character.
That's a good little experience you can have. Yeah. I think I love it when games do that. You're just like, haha, sucks.
FromSoft game. Because I've played so many FromSoft games.
Like the Bagman in Bloodborne, if they get you.
The Bagman's so good. Yeah, I love that shit. I have a growing appreciation for FromSoft games. They've become maybe my favorite franchise. Up there with Pokemon and Mega Man, where they just always make good shit. They make Kino. Even Sekiro that I have my problems with. Yeah. They took a lot from Sekiro, they brought back the stamina system, but they dialed it back kind of in the Sekiro style where whiffing an attack doesn't consume stamina, nor does running if an enemy is not in the zone. And I really like that. They've taken stuff.
If you kill a group, you refill your Estus flask a little bit.
Yeah, that's new. There's stuff like jumping attacks, a lot of stuff from Bloodborne. They took a lot of stuff from DS3. They've combined all of it into the best mechanics yet.
Yeah, there was guns. That'd be fun. But I wanted to go. I love the Bloodborne gun counters.
That's the thing. I saw a tweet where it's I think Bloodborne's still the coolest FromSoft game, but Elden Ring's the best FromSoft game. I was like, I think I agree.
Yeah,
but this is up there. This is high fantasy is hard to impress me, but this has the FromSoft bullshit that's it's trending more anime, where stuff is flashy and weird, and I prefer that.
Man, here's my thing.
Elden Ring is basically Dark Souls 4 aesthetically.
Yeah,
it's if you put those series side by side, you could not tell me they were two different settings. That and Demon Souls, Demon Souls is Dark Souls -1. It's so I think that's my one complaint is that Bloodborne aesthetically and just look wise, I love so much more because it's so creepy, it's so cool. It's just it's the style I love with a bit of a twist. With this, it's just this is just generic fantasy with the Attack on Titans in there for some reason.
I don't know, man. I fought this creepy dog statue that genuinely unnerved me. It was more horror than I felt in Bloodborne.
That thing was creepy, man.
That thing is weird, and the music was fucked up. I did not.
I was like, why is it here?
I do also the bosses are a little bit more I went to Margaret and I basically beelined him, and I was I got to the walls I can't beat him, so I went back and I fought 3 other bosses technically. So I like that aspect to it too. You need to go find the other things in the area and other challenges that you can accomplish.
Bradley's been trying to say something for a little bit. I'll open up the way for him.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, I feel like if FromSoft games are on a spectrum from Dark Souls 1 combat to Bloodborne combat, this is the perfect middle ground to me, because what I really like about Dark Souls 1 combat, I really like kind of how grounded it is. And Bloodborne, just there's sheer creativity going on there, and just more options for how you fight. And I think this is kind of like it feels grounded to me, but as over the top as you can get while being grounded. I don't know.
I get what you're saying, and I would even say like one thing I've come to appreciate about the Dark Souls games is actually the build variety. You can pick a weapon and spec into it, and you can make it work. And this game has a lot of that. Also, like they've added Arcane from Bloodborne, but they made it blood tinge, if that makes any sense. Like Arcane seems to be mapped to like blood style attacks, which is pretty cool. It's like a new element. And wow, they made the magic fucking dope in this game. Like, it's hard to not build one of the 3 magic stats because how much cool stuff you can do as a result. Like, I went Int and Dex, and I keep finding faith spells that make me so jealous. And then Tyler tells me about the things he's doing because he's going faith. He's going faith, and I found a weapon that is the coolest weapon I found in the game, and it is so hard faith scaling. And now Tyler became Xemnas from Kingdom Hearts 2 with the 2 lightsabers, and I'm so jealous. Like,
all I'm doing is run around playing the Kerbo lines from when he's like saying prayer like, "Oh, the Father, deliver me from evil.
Like,
deliver me from my enemies."
Slight spoiler alert, and all of you have access to this weapon. You just have to go back to a location. This weapon is a pair of glowing scripture. What the fuck? It's not. It doesn't have a physical form. It's just words that are glowing.
Oh, I do have that weapon. Yeah, inventory.
It's so sick.
I have Bible scripture knuckles.
And then if you dual wield it, there's one coming out of each hand, so you're just like you look at like a. It's very cool, and he has cool.
Can I just have like 3 files and play them all at once?
That's what I'm saying.
I immediately was like, when I was thinking, there's also stealth in this game, like actual like
from
like
from Sekiro, and like you could crouch and get bushes.
I kind of wish I did a rogue build just so I could sneak around and just kill people like insta-backs.
So like Tyler's class started with a spell that makes you harder to notice, so like maybe you can start that class and go like
maybe.
I really like the starting class in this game. They're way better equipped than in any other game.
Oh yeah, one of the items you can pick just upgrades your flask immediately.
It's one of 2 to upgrade your flask. You need 2 of those seeds.
Right, but like still.
I definitely went with that one. I was like, I like.
I went with the more health. I don't know why, but I think I was really tired when I started. Which is like, I always need more health.
I was telling Willer I kind of didn't want to do this talk today because I've been enjoying not analyzing the game at all. As a developer, it's hard to not do, and like especially a designer. And
you have some nitpicks. Do you want to talk about them?
Yeah, I can. First of all, I'm gonna do like a positive thing. So like I've been studying a lot of level design like the really past few years because it's been my job. Dude, they have done such a good job with making this world feel alive, and it's not even like all the shit like that you can collect and pick up everywhere, but it's like in places where it's the enemy encounters are so well spaced out, and each one has a purpose and a like well given intent. And then beyond that, they have like cool little interactions where you have like you go around and there's these 2 enemy factions fighting each other. Like I've had that happen like 3 different times. I'm like, why the fuck are y'all fighting? But you know they are. There's some lore behind that. I don't know what it is, but it exists.
I'll figure it out when it's explained to me much later by a YouTuber.
Like there's cool little things where you can buy like hints and secrets.
I like that
from
system
the NPC vendors, and that really like motivates me to not go research things online. A lot of the NPCs will talk about other characters that you come into contact with. They'll be like, if you talk to one magician, you go to another magician, and they'll be like, oh, have you heard of that magician? They're like, oh, yeah, I used to run with him back in the day. Not too bad of a lad that I know, but he's well washed up and insane now. What a fucking piece of shit. And it's like those like lead into more stories that do those like environmental storytellings where it doesn't even tell you everything right up.
I hate quests in Souls games because they're so easy to miss. It's like, oh, you didn't go here in this stretch of the game? Quest line over. This game feels a little more reined in and modern with its questing.
I have a big beef with this game that it is not next gen. It is sad. Like, there is so much seamless loading, and they've done really good job with that. But it's like they have not utilized any of the haptic controller performance on the PlayStation controller. I feel like there's a lot of cool features that could have been done with that. I feel like they had to sacrifice a lot of quality to make it available on previous generation consoles.
Yeah. And you're right. You are right about that. Because, like, even Demon's Souls uses some of the controller mechanics. One that I really liked, and it's really subtle, while you have a buff applied to you, your controller very subtly vibrates. And then without even, like, looking at to see if your weapon's enhanced or if you still have the glow, you'll know that the upgrade's done when your controller's back to neutral.
It's a really weird thing that I've been noticing lately, and these are the elevations of pickiness that I've gotten to where how immersive I can get into a game. Like, I've been doing so much VR over the last year, and like you can decorate like worlds and environments with that. There's like combat games and stuff that I've been playing, and it's like how much like. There's like even Tarkov and like 3D, not Tarkov, but Pavlov and like 3D printed sets for like your guns and like your like Oculus controllers go into it. And it's just like the immersiveness that even the haptic controller feedback gives into you, like when you're playing a PS5 game, is really great.
Think of Returnal when you're in the rain, and like it rains so often in this game. Like that feeling of the rain in Returnal feels so good. It's so weird. Or collecting
there's
items.
Audio. There's a speaker in the controller that it doesn't utilize at all.
But it's not a PlayStation exclusive, so I don't hold it against them. And I was saying, like, I appreciate, because like this is the hyped up Elden Ring. I appreciate that they got it running on the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4. So, like, even Bradley can play it without having to work. Because the real serious negative is how FromSoft has always kind of fucked up PC launches.
Yeah.
I think that's a Japanese developer thing. Like, they... like
100%.
Yeah. One day...
They'll
playing with headphones kind of makes my ears bleed a little bit. There's, like all the audio's there, but it's all like really in my ears. There's no like
they didn't
really
use
good mixing.
They didn't use like the PlayStation 3D audio mechanics and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, it's just stereo. And so like I know it's not an exclusive title. I get that, but I really feel like this is insider knowledge. Whenever the more consoles you have to deliver to, the less money that gets to go into the game and actually making it better.
Yeah, I think most people could just reason that. I mean, like everything's a cost.
Some people don't reason that.
They don't.
You know?
Some people don't really think about the games they consume or how they're made.
They don't understand the time and effort people have to go into.
Just eat the sausage and complain that it doesn't look as pretty as Horizon Zero Dawn and move on.
Like I'm having a lot of fun playing it. It is probably I haven't played a Souls game in like 8 years, so it's been great. But yeah, like those really nitpicky things, like I compare this to Returnal as like a next gen game, and I know you can't really do that because they're two really different games. But I'm like,
but here's the thing:
think about when I was playing Returnal, and I was so like, dude, I've stayed up till like 5 a.m. for the past 4 or 5 nights playing this, like every single fucking night since it's come out.
Stupid addicting. This shit's crack.
It is. Like I'm not complaining in that.
My work is genuinely suffering. Like that's where we're at.
Yeah. I just genuinely wish it did like have those next gen features. I think that would have really like this game is already going to be solidified as like one of the best games of all time. People are already there saying it and all that stuff. Sure, you know, it's common consensus. I can't argue against that. But that little extra push is just for me personally that's like the Titanfall 2, the Returnal, you know, like the gilded status.
Man, okay, I don't know, man. Like, but okay, take that aside. Take aside the immersion of those next gen features. As a design game and as of the scope, like this is a massive world with so much combat and places for you to explore, and they matter. They're not a copy pasted like aside from some of the catacomb like interiors. They're not like just a flat land that they kind of threw together and then put a bunch of little random bullshit. It's a crafted world. It feels all handcrafted and intentional. And like for the scope of this world, and like it's just so incredibly fun. I can't believe, like, to me, this is an achievement in gaming. Like,
dude, it looks so beautiful, and I've been playing too many Game Freak games that I'm like, I will sit there. I've stopped so many times and just looked at the textures and like looked at how flat they are. Like I've tried to get like as flat as I can and look. I'm like, and then I go to a vertical view and I'm like, that's a fucking good texture, man. Look at those details. Like look at those grass. And I go, I wonder if they made those in Speed Tree. Man, that shit's great. Look at this vegetation.
That won't be seeing that. They do use Speed Tree, I'm pretty sure. Won't be seeing that in the next Pokemon game, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I'm just like,
You'd be happy with your tall grass.
I'm so fucked up at this point. I'm like, look at those textures, man. Look at those rocks. They look great.
Shockingly, this generation is off to a very good start with its games, I think.
I think this is a stronger start than the previous generation.
Yeah, which has me worried what the end of this life cycle is going to be.
I don't know. It doesn't seem like it's slowing down. We're about to get, again, God of War and Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild is going to be interesting. Yeah. Because Genshin and this game have come out since, and it's like...
And the Switch's age is starting to really show.
Yeah, so it's like, is Nintendo going to be able to keep up with what they started? That's so interesting to think about.
So the original is always the palest compared to its successors if they're done good. So,
other things I want to bring up, like I like they made co-op and multiplayer. Tyler's freaking out. They made co-op and multiplayer the easiest to do. I was getting summoned. I don't like summoning people to fight my fight, but I will gladly go help someone else. So I turned on this thing, and I would walk 5 steps and get summoned to a random dungeon. And just go help a dude fight a dungeon. It was so easy. I was doing co-op I did so many sessions in 30 minutes that I was like, it's never been this easy. I've never done any of this in the other games because it's such a pain in the ass.
This is the most insane week in fucking gaming ever.
Did another thing happen? Is it like breaking news?
Yeah. It's not breaking news. I just forgot about it. I was so
wrapped up. Risk of Rain 2 DLC came
Risk of Rain 2 first DLC came out.
Yeah. Yo, Risk of Rain, great game, allegedly. I did want to talk about the bosses. I think the bosses are so good. They punish every playstyle in a really good way.
Dude,
like the mainline bosses, like Margit and Godric, and are the only ones I fought from the main line. And then you got like stuff that everyone's gonna run into, like Tree Sentinel. Some playstyles will be easier than others, but they have moves to address everything partially, at least. And man, I love like the phases in Souls games are so hype. Where they switch to their second phase, it's like I have a giant lightning hammer now, and my moveset is gonna be like the way staggering a moveset is how you fuck up every player. You do a swing. And then you hold that second swing and catch him post-roll. I love it. That's how they get you.
Also, I found out, I didn't realize up until like the last few times when I was fighting him, his lightning weapons or his light weapons pierce armor.
They do, because every shield you have, this is something you learn from other Souls games. If you wanted to block the lightning attacks, you'd equip a shield that has 100 in the lightning defense.
Yeah.
But generally, you're going to find a 100 physical defense shield, because that's most of the attacks, and then be vulnerable to magic. So the more shields you get, the more you can cover for those weaknesses. Yeah. And then one last thing that me and Tyler were noticing, it's like in the catacombs, all the bosses are pretty much versions of other enemies you'll see throughout the world, and that's the one concession that they had to make, where it's like, okay, we're gonna make shrines like in Zelda, and all the shrines are gonna have like little puzzle you have to solve, and then you're gonna fight a super version of an enemy you're gonna find somewhere else in the world. And you know what? That's fine, because it's a harder version of that enemy.
Dude, even though like still the boss fight encounters are like, as I was saying, the dedication to making each encounter feel different, even in the wilds, has been so good.
Yeah.
It like most people won't even realize this. Like, you may fight the same 4 enemies, but they've added a hilltop this time.
And it matters. It super matters.
It does matter, and most people won't even. They're like,
for example,
oh yeah, I fought the same group of undead dudes like 4 or 5 times. And I'm like, yeah, but like one of the encounters was on a hill. Whether like
one of the encounters you had bushes.
Yeah. And some people can be so conditioned to like playing games, they won't even realize their own thought process at certain times. And it's amazing. I'm not even mad. It's great.
And like they have a good pacing of introducing new enemies to you. You're gonna see a lot of them recycled as you go on, but as you spread out, you're gonna be running into enemies for the first time. Like I saw a weird pair of hands with 6 fingers attacking a Twitter person. I was like, what the fuck is that? I haven't seen anything close to that.
Y'all, I'm in an area right now that is in one of, like, it's very close to one of the starting areas. It's in Limgrave, I guess, is like, that's the starting area. Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah.
It is?
Grand, yeah.
It will blow y'all's fucking minds.
I'm excited. I've been blown many times by this game. And then, like, about the, like, for example, I fought the bear, the giant bear that some of y'all might have run into. I fought him as a boss. So he gets new moves, and you're in an elongated cave instead. And that terrain change is different from when I fought him on my horse, and he has more health and does more damage now. So it's like, I'm fine with, like, this gives you stuff to do, and the most important part is, okay, you kill that boss, you get a unique reward. Every single catacomb has 1 to 2 unique rewards you can't get anywhere else in the game, as far as I'm aware. And I think
also the world bosses fucking slap.
And then the world bosses are ridiculous. Yeah, like, of course. If y'all want to, like, does anyone have an objection to me saying the number of bosses that are in the game? Because I've heard that number recently.
20.
Hit me.
The number of bosses in Elden Ring is like 84, I believe.
Damn.
And among those 84, 77 were unique bosses. So they might that will include, like, now it's a boss bear, but it doesn't include the fact that, like, I've run into 2 of that dog statue enemy. So there's not that many repeat bosses. And if even half of those, if even 40 of them are wholly unique, that is on par with every other Souls game, if not more.
Yeah,
so,
holy
like, good job. How they made a game so grand and how they're going to top it is beyond me, but we can kind of close it there. I will say that, like, the other day, I was playing 13 Sentinels with Bradley, and we finished it.
Oh.
And he went home, and I was like, what are my current top 3 favorite games? And in that thought process, Bloodborne rose to number 3. And then I started playing this game, and unless it fumbles, I think this is a better game than Bloodborne. Ooh. Which means this is a top 3 game for me. Potentially, maybe even higher. So that's a scary thought. We'll talk about the game that broke into number 2 also later today. But we should move on because we don't want to go for too long. We're doing good in time considering that it's Elden Ring week. So I'll take
right.
that.
All right, well, let's go.
So, Breaking Bad is something Joe and Tyler watched recently.
We did it. Breaking Bad finally finished. It's over. It's done. Just finished this year.
Yep.
Not 20 years ago.
Not 2013.
Willer can still be mad at me that I haven't watched Better Call Saul, but I watched Breaking Bad.
You started. I saw you starting it.
Better Call Saul good. Breaking Bad was very good. I think I could rewatch the first 4 seasons of Breaking Bad. I don't think I can rewatch the 5th season, not because it was bad, because the intensity of that season is so high that it shaves years off my life.
Joe was too stressed to watch the final 3 episodes, and I didn't want to sugarcoat it. I was like, you kind of should be.
Yeah. Like it's very, like, and thing is, I guess we'll say spoilers.
Yes, full spoiler. It's Breaking Bad, y'all. What the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
Me and Bradley have talked about this for an hour and a half in the podcast before.
So I already knew that Hank dies, and I've even seen the scene where Hank dies.
Because it's meme to hell.
Yeah. So I was, but, like, even getting there, and that's how you know, like, the show is so well executed, is that even being there and knowing that it's coming up, that that tension is still in the air, and you're just grasping for whatever hope there is that it doesn't happen, it still happens.
Yeah, like, the way that episode ends with them getting cornered, and you go into the next episode and Gomi's already dead, and you're like, my fuck, it's the end.
Yeah. It's the fall. That's it. It's the end of it's the start of the end of the tragedy. Very perfectly rounded up. So I really enjoyed Breaking Bad. I think Better Call Saul is better. I like it a lot more.
I was gonna ask. Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
And Joe has a very unique perspective because he's one of the few people that did Better Call Saul before Breaking Bad. So I came from the other opposite, and I slightly prefer Better Call Saul, but it's a little bit of a different show. Breaking Bad's a lot more intense.
It is, and I think that's why I like it, because Better Call Saul has its like kind of intense moments, but you know what? It's not that crazy. I wouldn't say lighthearted. Maybe it's a little bit lighthearted, but like it's still good.
They both have their clown shoes moment. I often think of Jesse alone in the lab waiting for Walt to show up, and he's inflating his suit with like a air tube, and he's like got a big fat suit.
Yeah,
it's great.
So it's a little bit less intense, but it still has a lot of that character development, that character analysis that I really, really like. So I can sit back there and appreciate what's going on without feeling like I'm going to kill myself because I need this to happen.
Yeah, you were horrified of starting this show in the past.
Yeah, and but I had a great time watching it. Skylar did a weird like 360 movement for me.
Let's let Tyler do his Skylar first.
Y'all,
no.
let me start by saying that these characters are completely fictional in this universe.
Yikes.
I need to preface with that.
This is a bad start.
Oh, this is killing
I
me.
fucking hate Skylar, and I am a total victim blamer. I fucking hate this character, and
I've
it
hated
takes.
Skylar for a long time as a person, not as like a character. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I hated her just all around for everything. It took her son 5 minutes what it took her like 2 years to do,
Which is
where she's like, oh, he kind of Walt bad.
because of the culminating of circumstances of her having to deal with her husband who has cancer, and she like there's such a good scene in season 3 where
You're absolutely right.
Skylar has thrown Walt out of the doghouse and Walt's getting kicked out, and she goes grab the money from the closet so she can give it to Walt, and she stares at the money and she's kind of bewildered by it. In the next scene, she's dressed in all green, and every worry has escaped her mind, and it's like, no, the scale of what we're doing here is something that like I begrudgingly accept at the moment. And then Walt becomes a genuine monster, and she's like, nope, wait, I fucked up. I am now a prisoner.
And I think I was also shitposting Skylar because at the beginning, like season 1 happens, and then season 2 ends, and Skylar's like, I'm leaving you, taking the kids, and like, you go, queen. That's what you should be doing. And then she's like, you know what? This could actually help me out in some regards. And then just turns around. And I'm like, you're a worse piece of shit than Walt because you know what this is bad, and you're just choosing to do it. And then her boss breaks his neck, and I'm like, great. I'm glad you learned your lesson.
I killed Ted.
Yeah. That's
Man, I fucked Ted is a legendary line.
Yeah, I was that whole episode. I was like, "Why is this called IFD? I don't understand." Or IFT. Sorry,
I fucked Dead.
Yeah. And then we got there. I was like, "Oh, excellent." But Skylar's character, I really like her full circle kind of coming around, because like a big theme of the show is the realization of the consequences of your actions, not for yourself but everyone else around you, and even people you don't even know.
Yeah.
So like it's constantly there. Like it's very relevant in Jesse's storyline where he goes to like the meth head's house and he sees that because they're just consumed by the drugs, this kid is living a shitty life, and he can't even speak. He doesn't know how to talk.
He has such a stunted growth.
That was the saddest episode ever.
And then like Skylar realizes it when she realized, because she got involved with all this, her old boss, because of everything that's happened, suffers probably like a life-changing injury that will like, it's just disgusting. And Walt is completely blind to the idea that what he's doing is affecting other people, that people are only affecting him.
Blind or ignorant? That's the question.
Either way, it's choosing to ignore how the ripple effects that he's having to the people around him that aren't positive.
Now, Tyler, you didn't finish your whole Skylar spiel because you were pissed. You were like, he would message me. It's like, wow, great show. Fuck Skylar. Like, I got so many messages about Skylar. I was like, I don't have anything to say to you.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I've had bigger trauma since then. I'm on like the last 2 chapters of Stormlight Book 4. So I've had bigger trauma since I finished watching Breaking Bad. But yeah, man, fuck Skylar. Like, great actress, great story, great plot. I fucking hate the character. It's like George Costanza. Like, that character's built for me to hate.
Skylar is meant to be a naggy wife. That's how she starts. Walt, did you use the credit card? We're not supposed to. But also, Walter's kind of just like lazing around life at the start. He's just...
Oh, I'm not like Walter's the greatest man of all time either. No, I'm like... I just... This is a character written for me to dislike, so I dislike her.
Tyler, the strongest Skylar hater is a far lesser person than the weakest Skylar lover. And that is...
You know what? Here's the truth.
Okay.
Here's the truth that I found on a stone tablet in the desert thousands of years ago. Skylar is not a character you are written to dislike. Skylar is a filter, and if you dislike her, you're wrong.
Damn, I can't believe Moses wrote that so many years ago. The thing is, like, Tyler, I've been in this fandom since 2013. I have spit up and chewed up lesser men than you in Skylar debates for like over a decade almost.
That's why, here's the thing. None of those guys will sit there and go, "Hey, Willa, you're right. I still hate her."
No, because you're right. They're gonna say some weird misogynistic shit and be like, "Yikes!"
No, I'm like,
no, I get it. Like, here's the thing. Like,
I admit my faults.
Well, the thing I
have bad opinions.
I think it is the more popular opinion to hate Skylar, right?
Yeah, people are like, I can't handle a scene that has Skylar, and worse is like I've heard people say I can't handle a scene that has Walt Jr. It's like, man, you got some issues going on.
Like, I know I'm the odd one out. Like, I don't know.
It all culminates into the moment in, I think it's one of the last seasons, where Skylar like looks at Walt and she's like, "I'm a coward. I'm waiting for you to die. I don't have a plan."
That's like the best. That's like her best scene.
And I'm like,
she's like, "I'm doing the only thing I can, keeping them away from you till you die." I'm like, holy shit, we've come so far.
Is that in the 5th season? Like,
it is.
First half?
It is
as real as that is, I find it difficult to empathize with a person who just doesn't try.
Now, here's all I'm gonna say on the subject.
Yeah,
fucking Ted was a little mean. Come on. You see that?
Ted's the biggest fucking idiot in this show. Pay your fucking taxes, you fucking moron.
I'd love to hear the yearful that Jimmy McGill / Saul Goodman would give to Ted if he was like involved in those scenes.
What if in the last bit of Better Call Saul, in one of the black and white bits, Ted shows up at that at the donut shop or the Cinnabon.
The least likely.
And he's just like, "You mother!"
Anyways, okay, I have some slight discussion questions. Favorite and least favorite characters. So we know Tyler's least favorite, but who's your favorite, Tyler?
I'm gonna look at the list of characters.
Yeah.
Man.
Bradley, you can go. You probably have your self
Dude. Man.
Okay, I'll go.
Oh, no.
I feel like we're supposed to say Jesse.
That's the thing is historically it's been Jesse, but I don't know. I think Walt's fascinating. I'm going to go Jesse for my favorite.
What if I was just a savage and said Badger?
The thing is, Tyler specifically said like every character matters more than Skylar, even Badger. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Badger's the man.
Badger is hilarious. Don't get me wrong. I love when he's talking about Resident Evil 4 with Skinny Pete. That shit's hilarious.
Yeah.
I love the scene with Badger where he's trying to sell the drugs to the dude.
Oh, hilarious.
And he's like, "You have to tell me if you're a cop. I have
You're
to tell
legally
you."
up. He's like, dude, I'm not a cop.
Yeah, I think I'm with Joe. But I don't want to be. I really liked Hank's progression, but I also really hate it. Like, if I would have to go for my my true favorite and least favorite, it would be Hank for both of them.
Man, really? Okay.
Like,
I loved Hank.
He had really high highs and really low lows.
What would you say is a low for Hank's like storyline or character?
When he becomes paralyzed,
That's fantastic. That's such a good part.
That's what I'm saying is like it's really good, but the way that the like character treats his wife and he's just lifeless without his job.
But that's
and everything.
like that's his complexity. Tyler has a funny way to define the word least favorite and favorite. Where it's
is that I thought that was what it was like. Like I really dislike those traits in a human, like because this is a very realistic show.
I guess
very real.
Yeah. I get you. Yeah, you know what? That's a good take. Actually, I'm bad take Willer.
Mm-hmm. I understand where you're coming from. I think Hank getting paralyzed. I hate seeing Hank like that, but like I hate seeing him like that because I know he could be so much better and should be so much better.
One thing I love about him, he's genuinely such a good detective. Like,
yeah,
he's
like,
actually really good at his job. And I love
he's
his
also like a person.
Yeah.
He's not like Superman where or whatever where he's goody two shoes. He's kind of a jackass. Like if he
especially season 1 Hank is very abrasive.
But like when he sits down and does his job, you can't help but like admire the fact that he's really good at his job.
And I love how he's not a Terminator where like when he goes to El Paso he gets fucked up and like he gets turtle blown.
That was the big turning point for me, was that like, oh, you're an actual human that's suffering this post-traumatic stress.
Man.
And like when he kills Tuco, he's not happy about it.
Yeah, he gets very choken up about it. Like it's this first person he's killed.
I mean, he also has Tuco's grill like engraved.
Which he throws away.
So that's the thing, the machismo culture of his office says he should have that as a trophy. They actually made it a trophy for him. He throws it away because it's like, this is just fucking me up and I can't do therapy because I can't look weak.
I like his PTSD moment in the desert with the head on the turtle.
Oh, yeah.
I like the one in the elevator where he gets in the elevator, freaks out, the door's open, and he walks out composed. Like, the way that's edited and shot is so good. I remember a lot about this show. I've watched it like 4 times. It's so good.
Also,
I'm going to have, obviously, like, Jesse and Walter, like, you know, I'm going to not even include those just because they're the two main characters.
My take on this show is that, like, Jesse, Walter, and Hank are all equally good top 3 characters. Like, they are the 3 protagonists. Gus is probably just below them for me.
And then it's like top 6. It's like Walter, Jesse, Gus, Hank, Mike, and Saul.
Badger.
Here's the thing. Tuco is like Frieza, Gus is Cell, and then the Nazi hillbilly guys are like the
Kid Boo. They're all different Boos. You're actually super right.
Back out of the game.
Uncle Jack is definitely Super Boo, but fucking Todd is Kid Boo.
Dude, he's pure psychopath.
Yeah. Jesus Christ. Todd is such
a good play Todd should have won something. Or he's actually that mentally deranged and is just passing it off pretty seriously.
I watched him in Friday Night Lights, the TV show, where he killed a person in that show, actually, now that I think about it. So, yeah.
He was phenomenal because, like, he genuinely seems like a young man who is like, why doesn't Jesse want to be my friend?
Okay, both of you need to watch El Camino. They haven't yet.
No, this is a question I have for them, actually, because neither of them have watched it. I wanted to ask, what would you like to see in El Camino?
That's a good question.
I know I think I've seen, like, the trailer for El Camino for a little bit, where, like, it starts off with Jesse driving away, and then he runs back to like Badger and Skinny Peter in the movie. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, they are.
I don't even know what El Camino is about, other than it's about Jesse.
Yeah.
That's
Like,
fine.
I have no idea what the movie's about.
You should go in knowing that.
I want to see Jesse go to Alaska.
Cool.
Yeah,
Cool.
like, I don't know. I really don't. I have no idea. I just want Jesse to, like, start a woodworking shop in, like, Maine or something.
I'm just gonna say, Todd is in El Camino in certain fashions, and he is so good in that role.
Oh.
He is horrifying. That is a
So I
horrifying role.
actually just got spoiled on that because I was looking at our list of characters.
Yeah.
But the article was strictly about why the actor looks so different.
Yeah, he's very fat in El Camino because he was doing a different role. So it's gonna be jarring for you. Least favorite characters is hard in this show because it's like I don't think a character detracts from it. I'll say like
Gale.
No, I like Gale. Gale served his purpose
Gale
really
was
well.
great.
Yeah.
No, Gale was great.
Gale is
Pretty
like is it fair to say the twins? I like the twins better in Better Call Saul, which is weird because they're the same character.
I think that's
gimmicky.
fair. I feel like the twins are.
But I also like how they're just Terminators in the show of very realistic people. It's cool to have two Terminators.
That's the thing. That's why I've loved them so much in this, is because like they were anime characters in an otherwise like real life drama.
Was it Marie?
Marie's my least favorite.
I kind of like Marie's bitchiness. She's really funny at times.
Marie at the end also broke my heart.
You know what I don't like Marie's robbing storyline. It's a little
That
superfluous.
got stopped very quickly. Like I completely forgot about it until Marie started showing up more. I was like, oh right, you were a kleptomaniac.
Yeah, I'll say that's like the worst storyline in the show is probably that.
Here's the thing with that storyline for me. Walt's crimes are far more unforgivable for me, but I can at least understand how he deluded himself into doing them. Marie, I don't know, man.
She's just trying to spice up her life.
Yeah, dude.
But they're the perfect like kind of showing of like, well, you could either steal spoons off of a wall or create a meth empire. How do you want to handle your midlife
It's your
crisis?
two paths. There's that Yu-Gi-Oh card that's a meme where like one path is light and the other is dark, and she chose her path.
What about
I cast
Lydia?
Blue Eyes.
Oh, I love
Jack.
Lydia. She's
Oh, no,
fucking
Lydia's my
fantastic.
girl.
Lydia. She's in Better Call Saul, and I just love her in all those roles. She's so neuronic. She got so much OCD just oozing out of her. She's awesome. Here's the thing. A lot of people are like, man, the Nazis are a step down from Gus. The thing about the Nazis is that they're a villain that Walt introduces into the story. Like, they are the consequence of his actions. They wouldn't even be in this if he didn't do the things he did. And, man, that scene where they kill all the prisoners in 2 minutes is dope and horrifying. That guy who gets burnt...
Yeah.
And the guy who gets shanked 50 times in the shower, they do not let up. Fucked up. I do not want to be in prison and work for a drug empire.
You know, Walt, maybe you should reflect on your life if you're hiring Nazis. I don't know.
I like how Joe was like, I like how the one way they could make Walt a worse character is if there's Nazis involved. It's like, you're right.
There was a one shot that I really liked, talking about the Nazis, is that they're talking to Todd in the diner, and the way it's shot is that you can't see any of their tattoos or anything, so they just kind of look like
That's
people.
true, until they get up, yeah.
Until they turn or they start, or the camera flips sides, and like, it's a good way of showing like these people exist and you don't realize who they are because they blend in because they just look like everyday people.
My final questions is favorite scene/episodes and how we feel about the ending. So I don't know what order we want to tackle those, but as for my favorite character, I'm kind of with Bradley, where it flip-flops between Walt and Jesse, and Hank is also very up there. Anyways, I will say I think the ending's perfect, and what's funny is when you were watching it live, the final song got leaked. And the final song's pretty telling for how the episode was going to end, so people who knew that were able to, like, kind of surmise that it was going to be a bittersweet ending for Walt. But, man, in that last episode where he finally tells Skylar, I did it for me, that was, like... And, like, crazy Walt fanboys, because, like, there's people who are, like, very on the side of Walt, because protagonist privilege of getting the CSPOV. They're like, he just told her that so she would shut up, and then in interviews they're like, yeah, he came clean, he told the truth. It's like, yeah, shut up. It was the first time he was truly honest in a long time in their relationship.
Favorite episodes,
or scenes. I'll throw one of my favorites in there, and it's one that like it took till the second rewatch for me to really appreciate. Walt in the crawl space, where he realizes all the money's gone and he's cackling. The acting in that scene is insane.
God.
And when
he turned into the Joker.
That was the moment he became the Joker. And the camera's like pulling up, and it's kind of like on a shaky wire. So like, I love the way that. And then of course, everything in the Ozymandias episode, like every scene is just peak perfection pacing and acting and dialogue.
My favorite was the end of Gus, because I did not know Gus died. Like,
Man.
Face Off.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's it. That's it. There's no other details. That's just my favorite.
Yeah, Bradley, you got any favorite scenes?
Man, one really memorable scene for me is it might have been season 2, maybe early season 3. I can't remember, but it's I want to say, I was about to say Jesse's lowest point. It's probably not even his lowest point, but like he like just got kicked out of the house and shit, and I don't know, he'd been like trying to get a job and he couldn't get a ride, and then the night ended with him like getting dumped into a porta potty full of shit and like cleaning fluid.
He has to break into his RV and sleep there.
And then he broke into the RV to sleep there, and then the guy woke him up with a gun, and he started sobbing. He's just like, give me a break. I need one break.
Another good Jesse scene is after Hank has beaten the shit out of him, and he's in the hospital. He's like, and that scene, the acting where he's like, my life is ruined because of you. My life has gotten worse every day. And then Walt just says, Jesse, you're as good of a cook as me. And then he walks away.
No.
And Jesse cries because like he's in that toxic relationship where it's like, that's all I wanted to hear. Jesse and Walt's relationship is so good. Remember when
such a manipulative bitch?
But also like there's genuine love. That's what's so good. Like,
I know, it's crazy.
Like there's a father-son love there, and they also manipulate the shit out of each other, mostly one way. But Walt gives Jesse a purpose. He gives him focus and drive, and he refines them into like when Jesse cooks that batch for the Mexicans, it's such a hype moment, and he's cooking.
That is like his anime moment, dude.
But like,
I think that's one of my favorite scenes is when Gus kills the cartel, and it's just kind of crazy that he fucking pulls it off too.
And it's cool because you know more context to that now as well because you've watched so much of Better Call Saul. I guess
another like relationship that like I really liked was Hector's and Gus's, and like it's not shown a lot on the screen, and I think Better Call Saul definitely like expands on it a lot more. But it's the weird kind of not one-sided, but just like
it is the hatred is one-sided, but the rivalry is like business related. It's like you're beating me at business, and I'm kind of losing my footing. I'm Hector. I'm a cranky old man, so I like strike back. But
for Gus, it's all personal.
Gus, it's not business for Gus. It is 100% personal. That's a good way to put it. It's like they're crisscross. They're running parallel to each other in their rivalry.
They hate each other for completely different reasons.
Yeah, it's super good. And then Joe, are you extra excited? Like, did this give you a extra excited factor for the fact that Better Call Saul is about to air in April? I think. I don't
think it increases my hype for Better Call Saul. But it's already pretty. I'm pretty excited for it anyways. But like I wouldn't say I'm in astronomical levels. I am excited to see where it goes because it's just kind of better to have context. But it's at the same time it's like a weird
like
the dynamic between the characters without Walt is just so fun and interesting that Walt coming in and breaking everything.
Yeah, like
it's super sad.
Better Call Saul is the story of how this drug world is birthed in Albuquerque and how like the epic battles that happen in this drug world, and then one crazy high school teacher shows up and burns it all to the fucking ground.
Yeah.
And that's great.
That's
awesome.
It's almost like It's all made out of glass, and it's all that fragile.
Ooh.
All that glitters ain't gold.
But what makes me excited about, like, I want to see how Saul, because Saul is still, like, the Jimmy we know, especially at the end of season 5, is not Saul. Like, in season 4, he was getting, in the beginning of season 5, he's very Saul-esque, but he's not to the debauchery that Saul is as soon as we meet him in Breaking Bad. Where's Kim? Where's Nacho? Where's Lalo? These are all
dead.
But the thing is, Jimmy, when he first gets caught in season 2, like in Breaking Bad, is like, did Lalo send you? So it's like, Lalo alive? Does Jimmy not know Lalo is dead?
Jimmy doesn't know it. That's why I think.
Like, the way that's all gonna wrap up into creating the final Saul that we meet, I think is gonna be really interesting. And then most importantly, I want to know what happens to Gene. How does his story end? Because in the teaser they showed, Gene is now back in Albuquerque. So he's fucking finishing some business there for some reason, and I'm hyped to see how that's going to play out.
I hope he goes to the vacuum cleaner shop and he has a bigger store with a lot of customers that he's actually...
The vacuum cleaner died, and you know what? I hope there's no vacuum cleaning. Like, it's too easy of a solution now that it's been used. Well, it's used in Breaking Bad, and it's not used... I mean, it's part of El Camino, but I won't say to what extent. It comes up there, and I feel like
calls him in Better Call Saul,
but then he stops it. Yeah, like he calls him, and then he's like, "No, I'm gonna handle this myself." So I want to see how that ends. I think it ends with Saul in prison, which is kind of a tragic end for someone who's avoided prison so many times.
But like, I think that goes down to there's a moment where Saul and White are talking to each other at the end, and he's just like, "How about this? You care about your family so much. Just come clean."
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
And I think and it's kind of ironic that Saul's saying that.
That or it's a romance story, and it ends with him and Kim back together somehow, and she's alive, and they like rekindle their relationship that's probably gonna break in season 6. Oh, what a love story! But
I'm excited to see where Better Call Saul goes. I'm actually really more excited for the black and white scenes of Better Call Saul now than I am of like the actual Better Call Saul show.
Man, I'm so invested in those characters. I want to see how they and like Mike becomes a dog by the end, like by the start of Breaking Bad. He's so subservient to Gus. So I want to see that road to darkness.
So fun fact about Mike that I learned was when we first get introduced to Mike and he goes to Jane or to Jesse's house and Jane's dead and he has to clean up everything. That was supposed to be Bob Odenkirk as Saul,
but he couldn't do it that day.
He was scheduled for How I Met Your Mother, so he couldn't do it, which I think is just really funny.
So they created one of the greatest characters out of fucking that's the power of this TV, like of this group. They're really good at
season 2.
Yeah.
I think also Mike is a weaker character in this show than he is in Better Call Saul, in my opinion. Because Mike's granddaughter is there, but there isn't a lot of like the back and forth and him thinking about things as much because he's already pretty set on what he wants to do. He's already committed.
I'll counter and say they're pretty equal in. He's figuring a lot about himself and where he fits in this world and getting over his trauma in Better Call Saul, which adds more complexity. But the way he plays off of Walter is an equally interesting way to do the character. So I think I don't think there's a significant drop. Bradley, what do you think?
I think Mike is at his best at the front half of season 5 when it's him and Walt and Jesse having to run this tiny drug empire. And he's only there because he's trying to settle his debts with everyone else. Yeah. I think that's really an interesting dynamic between all of them.
My favorite part of the show is when Badger is around.
Badger.
That's what Badger. That's Bradley's sign for we should move on.
I want the Badger spin-off miniseries where after everything we just see Badger going around.
Badger.
No. Actually, you know what I find really impressive about both of these shows? I feel like every single character in both of these shows, even if they've only shown up in one episode, has been memed the hell out of.
I'll go one further. I'll say the characters in this show are so fleshed out. Like, they're so developed. Like, not necessarily character progression, But you go to a side character in Better Call Saul, like the lady behind the desk that takes Jimmy's money in season 5 when he comes back. She has so much personality, and she gets 2 lines of dialogue, and that's extended for the whole cast. The Kettlemans, fucking Badger and Skinny Pete are so lovable despite being fuck ups.
I love that Skinny Pete can play the piano. And
He's so good. He's such a savant.
Yeah.
Okay.
That actor should create a podcast and call it Breaking Badger.
Yeah. All right. So this concludes our regularly scheduled programming. We have one last topic. Tyler will not be in it, so say bye to Tyler.
Oh, bye me.
You can say
Elden Ring.
Joe doesn't have to be in it. You can be if you
Make
want.
the dinner for the laddie.
It's the 13 Sentinels, right? Am I wrong?
Yeah, it's 13 Sentinels. Spoiler cast.
You know what? We weren't able to do a talk about it, so I might as well just stick around for a little bit.
We did.
Then I'll probably,
One day this game will be played.
At one point, but I don't know.
Tyler's,
Let's see what happens.
Tyler's never playing this shit.
It will be played one day. Don't deny me my right.
Tyler will be 65 years old, and then
Tyler plays the games I care about in the sense that he's gonna finish Mother 3 one day.
Shut up.
Anyways, get out of here, punk.
Also, have y'all seen the Google image for what they use for Hector? When you look up the Breaking Bad cast.
Is it him about to explode?
No. Hold on. I'm putting it in mid-cast chat.
Yeah, let's take a look. Mid-cast chat. Yeah, that is him about to explode. That's what he's... Yeah. I knew it. I had a feeling. He looks so mean. Hey, Bradley and I finished playing 13 Sentinels together.
Man.
Mm-hmm. Congrats, y'all.
Thank you. Thank you. I saved another soul, another crown, and
How
another
did you
gem.
like the fact that if you've watched every 1980s sci-fi film, you could kind of piece together the plot of this movie, this game?
You have to watch a lot of sci-fi films.
Man.
Yeah. You got a little bit of Terminator, you got a little bit of Star Wars, you got a little bit of Mechagodzilla.
Got some Matrix in there.
Yeah, some Matrix.
We will get into spoilers, but Bradley, what is your spoiler-free review of 13 Sentinels?
Man, it's just it's a really fantastic sci-fi story. Like they took as many tropes of both sci-fi and also like shoujo manga and smashed them together, which if you were to pitch that to me, I'd be like, oh, that sounds so clumsy and clunky, but it was so beautiful. I don't know how they did it. I really don't.
Yeah, and like, beautiful's a good word because also the aesthetics and music and how certain scenes crescendo and how the background elements are placed. I would just constantly be like, Bradley, look at those background characters and like, look how much personality the background characters have, even though they're just there. They'll never talk. Like, or some that talk a little bit, like the track girls are so like, they all have their own personalities just based on their couple lines of dialogue.
I'm saying.
They go through a lot of lengths into fleshing out this world, and it actually serves to put you in the headspace of the characters when you find out a little more about like what their fight really means and who they're fighting for. Rather, the fact that they're not really fighting for anyone in certain ways. Like it gets real fucky when you start thinking about it, but. Yeah, Bradley, that's the review. It's a good game, pretty.
Yeah, and also one thing I just want to shout out these devs for is a lot of times I get really frustrated with feeling like devs are out of touch with what it would actually be like to be a player playing their game. But this game really astounded me because I feel like there is always a button you can press to do whatever it is you want to do. It's like no matter what like a mode I'm in, I'm like 2 button presses away from the event archive, so I can, easily cross-check this thought I was having, no matter what I'm currently doing, whether I'm fighting or in a cutscene.
The UX is very carefully considered.
Yeah,
it's incredible,
especially in the battle mode because that shit gets hectic.
Yeah. I will say the UX is the weakest in the battle mode just because they put the map in the middle of the screen where it's like, hey, could you move this to a corner, please? Aside from that, like, we can get into the battle mode because I feel like this is when people talk about 13 Sentinels, it's almost universal praise for the story. And then the people who got the combat and played it on intense and the people that didn't get the combat and played it on easy just get it over with, and they'll complain about the combat.
I love the combat in this game. Actually, when y'all started playing it, I went back and just started doing the challenge, not the challenges, but the extra missions on the intense mode.
Yeah, Bradley would leave, and I would do 3 missions just for funsies.
It's so fun.
Yeah. It's
like the thing with the combat is like playing even on normal, but like playing on the harder difficulties, it pushes you to maneuver your dudes. Like Bradley and I did do some like. I did push him to kind of try everything, but even after I pushed him, he just naturally used everything in his arsenal. Like, I think the weaponry and the generations are so well considered to where it's like, and diversified enough to where like, you will use every armament for different situations, and you're going to find your favorites, but oftentimes either because if you're running out of EP, or the way the enemies are lined up, or the positioning of your characters, you're going to use those niche tools that you only use a couple times, but they have their uses.
It's even better when like you're doing those missions and like everyone you don't want when you can like after so many missions your pilots get like brain damage and so can't be used for a turn. And you can reset all of them, but you want to keep the score going up, because number go up that good.
Only cowards use the refresh feature.
Yeah, and at one point, I think I only had like 6 actual functioning mechs at one point, and none of my synergies lined up when I was building with these 6. I just fucked up my pattern way back when. I must have been drunk or something, or I wasn't thinking.
It's easy to happen.
Yeah, and I had to find a mission with that because I refused to give up, and I did it, and I cried. Not really, but it was just painful.
Dude, Bradley would have some missions where like he would just be on the edge of his seat, like talk about some of your war stories.
I think the combat was pretty perfectly balanced for me on Intense, because I think maybe a third of the missions on Intense I barely scraped by. The rest of them I did well, but like, you know, I was having to like really think and use everything on all of those missions.
And like not in a frustrating way. He only lost like twice, and like it's really well paced as long as like you just are leveling up your stuff and you're keeping all your units well rounded. Like it's really well considered.
I was having a blast, and it's relaxing. Like,
oh yeah,
all of the attacks feel good to do. Like when the kaiju pop and explode, I'm just like, ooh.
There's like some of my favorite combat things: hitting someone with Nenji's Demolisher Blade and just watching, or hitting someone with Juro's Plasma Cutter and just watching the numbers fucking shoot up. Shooting your first missile rain is a historic video game moment.
It's like, what does this do?
This crash.
You become a Final Fantasy boss with that fucking attack.
Crashes the Nintendo Switch. Is what it does.
That's the thing. I'm watching that one 13 Sentinels Let's Play on YouTube, and at first, at like the 8-hour point, they didn't have missile rain on any of their Gen 3s.
Yeah, there's a point in the game where they're like, man, the Gen 3s are just not good, and then chat's like, hold on.
They're like, we don't get why you do Gen 3s. We see the niche on all the other ones, but Gen 3s are just trash. And then they get missile rain, and then they're like, oh.
And then you realize super large missile is insane, and you're like, okay. Yeah. And then like Gen 4 is just sneaking behind people and doing their leg mines or their leg spikes and dropping interceptors. And
Gen 3 is the artillery ones, right? Where they have all the big guns. Yeah. Those are my favorite to use.
Double railgun with Tomy. Every character's got their niche.
You're going to sit here, and we're going to funnel them in here, and you're going to shoot them.
It goes without saying, but Ryoko Shidanome's double sentry guns is a fan favorite because it's just so easy to use. You just drop those sentry guns and go on with your life. You got Goto and Megumi with their many interceptors. And like Bradley ended up using flare, which I think people really underutilized. He was using the flares all the time.
Oh, I use flares all of the time.
Yeah.
Holy shit, that thing is useful and needed on like those later missions, because holy shit, there's a bunch of garbage flying at you.
And Bradley was like all about shielding characters, so like it's cool watching how people play differently. And again, if you enjoy the combat, the post game has mechanics that don't even show up in the game at first.
Fuck Mission 5.
Fuck Mission 50. You don't know.
Yeah. Well, like Mission 5 is the one where they introduce the not random, but the teleportation.
Yeah. There's an enemy that will teleport all your units at the start of the battle, and like you're like, oh cool, Nenji's at the corner of the map,
Yeah.
And Hijiyama's in the other corner and done.
It's
And
like,
then when you get into range of him for melee attacks, or you hit him, he does it again. Because just fuck you, I guess.
Fuck you.
Like,
like what Willer was saying one time is like, there's 10,000 bonus missions. They're not gonna explain all these mechanics to you. Like, you have to like see them happening on the fly and adapt, and that's cool because like that's what the characters are doing, man.
Like, there's, I don't know if you'd noticed, Joe, they might not have even popped it up yet. You might notice sometimes that your high arcing missile attacks aren't landing. Like, super large missile wasn't landing. And then I realized the enemies start putting flares of their own, purple flares that are high up in the air that stop high arcing missiles. So you have to like either shoot around them or shoot at just a different wave.
damn.
And
I
stuff
don't know
like
if I've
that.
run into those yet.
And then, like, you
That's-
start running into, like, buffed up versions of the gladiators that just fuck up your close range dudes. It's great. But enough about the combat. I think the meat of the game is the narrative. And I think the narrative is super well executed and super addicting to go through. And that's, like, the biggest strength of the game. Yep. Cool.
I'm just thinking back to my time because I think part of the reason why I enjoyed the narrative so much was that I was able to bounce off my theories with, because I played this a year ago.
Yeah.
And this was just after you finished it, after our game of the year, and I would just throw fucking like things your way, or I just talk to you about them or ask questions. So I think that really elevated it for me.
Yeah, Joe would send
me.
me his list of predictions. That was always fun.
I think the last one I sent was like 75% to what was actually going on. And I still had like a bunch of stuff left
That's the thing.
when I sent it.
It's but go on.
But I think if I was playing this by myself, the narrative I think would still be fun, but I would just be so addicted to that mission mode that whenever I got cut off, I would kind of be annoyed. But
Joe's not much of a story gamer, to be fair.
yeah. That being said, I still really liked it. I really enjoyed it. I liked that I think a big part of like visual novel games is that you need to incorporate that games part to it somehow.
Yeah.
And I think they do that really well. There's still a lot of interactivity. There's still a lot of like choice and decision making you're doing, and you're still controlling stuff. Like, I don't want your visual novel portion to just be like you're hitting X to go to the next line of dialogue. I want there to be some sort of puzzle, whatever element to it.
I think even there's a couple layers to it. Even the selecting the order is fun. It's addicting.
Yeah.
Like, Bradley would be like, ooh, I thought about it. I want to do this character when I get back to your house tomorrow and stuff like that.
That's also really good. But I don't know how y'all did it. I literally just went down a line until I got stopped. And then I was like, all right, who's next? And then just move around the wheel.
Man, it's crazy because like Willer had mentioned some things I'm noticing now from checking out other people's Let's Plays where like in some people's Let's Plays, they will be halfway through Yuki's story at a time that is before I ever even had her unlocked.
Yeah, it took him so long to get Yuki and Nenji. I was like, are we doing something wrong?
Which is the thing is like a lot of these people unlocked her story like in their second or third video or something.
Yeah.
How do you unlock her? Is it like you just go down another person's path?
Do a couple of shoes.
Every character, I think, has a couple of unlock condition chapters.
Yeah.
No one, I've never looked into it for sure, but like a really fun part is the different order you go through things. Like, for example, Bradley was so blindsided by Kyutoshiba plot twist, for example.
Oh my
because
God.
It took him a while to get there. I did Juro relatively early in the grand scheme of things. And I also noticed there's like a scene that you do from Shu's point of view and Kyuta's not there. I was like, this is really sus.
I'll say I got Kyutoshiba at like 75% or something.
I mean, Bradley also, it had been so long that he forgot the first scene with Shiba as him erasing Juro's memory. So he's like, how could Shiba be? He's like, how could Shiba be bad?
You would never do this to me.
That was me going, this is fucking sus. And then he doesn't show up on the wheel. I'm like, who the fuck are you that you're not showing up on the wheel of characters that select
Yeah,
from?
but then there's Miwako and Okino, so you're thrown off the scent a little bit.
A little bit, but like it just was.
Bradley was half convinced that Miwako was going to be the main antagonist.
Man, I was like, because that's how bad Shiva hurt me.
Yeah, Sheba broke this man. It was hilarious. It was so good.
I never suspected Miwako before Shiba, like, because I just trusted him.
Yeah, but like the order you go through things is fun. Like I think Bradley had a really fun time figuring out the Erica Iba 426 situation.
Oh, girl.
Oh, yeah. I think another thing that I really like is that each story you go through isn't like the retelling of the same day from a different perspective.
No, they very rarely overlap the story. It happens like 5 times where they overlap.
And when it does, it's significant because it's there to connect dots.
Yeah.
But like Ogata's storyline, for example, is like completely separate from everyone else. Until
it's an afternoon. Yeah, like in a simulation.
And then so like I think that really helps the variety of it. Is that like you're not going through like, all right, now this happens, I have to watch this scene again. It's not like VLR where like you go down the path and then you hit the combine point and then it's like 15 minutes of the same dialogue or
you hit that
again.
skip button till you get to the next new dialogue.
Yeah, but like even then it's still just kind of like, all right, let's move along.
It's a very well-paced story, which is like the story's first draft was allegedly double the size, and then it's like, would that have been a greater game? And I'm like,
no,
not necessarily, because it took us like 50 hours to beat it. It took me 45-ish, 40 in my personal time when I first played it. And like, the thing is, the game never dragged because of how it was paced. So I don't think adding more necessarily would have added. Like, it would have been cool to get more of Tamao, and there's apparently like AI Hijiyama was going to get a plot line that's as relevant as AI BJ, aka Miura. So
I do think the one weakness of this is the AI robots with the personalities in them. That was the one where I was just like, this is getting a little bit too just like off the rails for me.
Was it?
Yeah. I think so.
I never had any problems with the AI, like, because once you introduce the concept of nanomachines that integrate with your brain that much, that and like that's why the journey of 426 I think is so badass, because that dude has transcended humanity and is just an AI personality. And they really go into it with. They also go into the ethics of it with a scene between Okino and Ei Sekigahara where they talk about kind of like what it means to be a AI consciousness and all that has to do with. Bradley and Joe, what were some of your favorite like plot drops or favorite like plot moments that you can remember, or maybe favorite connections that you made?
With the first time, Joe, go ahead.
Yeah, Tomoe, her being like a future time traveler or have already gone through a cycle, if I'm remembering that correctly.
Many characters went through multiple cycles. The main ones are Morimura and Jiro Izumi 426 are the main, and Ida are the main loop travelers.
It's Ogata's girlfriend. She's like the only playable character that remembers what happened, is kind of a little bit of aware what happened before.
No,
you're
hazy on the details. Tomi from the last loop is the idol who's helping them the most, if that's what you're thinking of.
No, they're like Tomi that like you end up playing is from a different loop and gets transported to the modern times. Yes, I'm pretty sure.
No, not from a different loop. She's from a different sector. But
because that sector got invaded first.
Yeah, most of the characters are from other sectors. To be fair.
Yeah, it's just. But I think for me, like I playing her off for so long that it came to me a surprise that she actually like came from that and wasn't just like another character in this time.
Yeah, like her interlude is her being like, "Wow, the '80s are so quirky because I've heard so much about them."
Yeah. Let's see, I'm trying to think what else was there. The robots one was just like, what the fuck is going on here? For sure. With AI Tomoe as who I think was with Goto. Maybe I'm misremembering it. Whoever made the
Goto used to give her drugs back when she was in the 40s, but that's the Tamao of this loop. There's a lot.
But Tamao also got put into a machine at one point.
Tamao from last loop is an AI.
Yeah.
A lot of them died in a explosion, so they're AI remnants of them.
Mm-hmm. I was also like the concept of the of the multiple Morimoras was another one that was really good.
There's like 5 of those bitches.
I know.
Oh my god, because like here's the thing. I spent like 20 plus hours trying to reconcile how all of these different Morimuras I saw could be the same person. In reality, not only were they pretty much all different Morimuras, there were actually even more Morimuras that I didn't know about.
Like so Bradley, what were some of your favorite reveals or twists?
Man, the first time I heard the phrase millions of years,
Oh.
that was a huge one. Time travel isn't real.
Time travel isn't real is when I was like, oh wait, this game is fucked up.
That was
I kind of started
the
piecing that
first
together
stroke, man.
at one point because I was like, because I realized like, so they can only go back in time so many years, but then whenever they go back in time to that time spot,
There's no continuity.
Happened.
Yeah.
And so like, so to me, it's like they're either traveling parallel worlds or they're happening simultaneously or something.
I was in the train of either parallel worlds or something I can't think of, but it was never that they're not time traveling at all. Like,
I think there's a point where they're discussing the satellite construction and then it clicked to me of like, oh, they're different pods or they're it's a huge space station. They're each just different.
They dropped the words residential zone early on, and that's like a big hint, but it's so easy to miss. Like
that's what triggered it for me because I was just like, oh, it's a big space station and they're separated for some reason.
For me, I did that, and then like 1 or 2 after I did the one where Shu hits the corner of the world. Yeah. And that's when I'm like, oh, not only is none of this real, but 2188 was the past, wasn't it? And like I was able to get a lot of the story from those 2 events next to each other. And it's funny because I'm like, Bradley, there's 2 events I'm gonna lock you out of doing early. And I was like, Bradley, when you're ready to start understanding the game, you can do one of these 2 events. And like, he took that to heart. He's like, I want to keep going down the path of chaos. And then when he's like, okay, I want to get it a little bit. And then he went in, and that was fun. But what were some of your other faves?
Oh, man. I think the Yuki and Natsuno thing was a big one.
Jesus. Whatever, mom. And they're like, Yuki-chan's my mom in the future? That's so good.
Oh, I've completely forgot about that.
That is such a fucky moment.
Yeah. Yuki-chan.
I have some, like, of course, all those basic ones. Hitting the edge of the world's fucked up.
Oh, my God.
One I really like is Murimura clearing up the fact that she is not a real human being anymore and how that affects the plot, especially on the second playthrough. It's like, wow, this is really interesting. Piecing together the journey of... When you piece together the full journey of the original the Murimura from 2 loops ago and the Juro from 2 loops ago, and you see how they got to the point where they are now, where one's a cat and a teenage boy inside the mind of another boy, and the other's a big titty nurse who regrets everything she's ever done. It's like so fascinating. Ace Sekigahara dropping the bomb that there won't be another loop after this one to Tetsuya Ida's smug ass was super good. And then, of course, it's like... But it's such a weird one, because they make sure you're going to get this one in your last 2 hours of playing the game, which is the fact that they're in a virtual world. And this is a point of contention, I think, for a lot of people, because The Matrix is, like, such a prevalent thing in our society. Like, everyone's watched The Matrix or thinks of Matrix-like plots. So I feel like... The way they drop it in that scene is so surreal and beautiful, where, like... They're kind of talking in their weird pods, and Hichiyama doesn't understand what's actually happening, and Okino drops it. It's like, this was the thing I was missing. Like, we have been in we have never left these pods, and this battle for survival is actually also a battle for us to start living for the first time at the same way. And, like, you get the sense that it's all virtual, but the way they phrase it in that still catches you off guard, and it, like, makes you feel the weight of the journey in a way that even if you knew that it was a Matrix, you wouldn't understand the weight of it until it's explained the way they do it.
It's a weird, like, metaphor for like that growing up and like moving on into adulthood as like a teenager too. So I think that works really well. Of like, yeah, I'm gonna have to go through trials and tribulations, but I'm ready to do that kind of thing.
Which is
very much like leaving the nest.
It's
scenario.
doubly effective because of the best storyline in the game, Goto, that culminates in Goto bullying a child with the mind of actual Professor Morimura, and then going at the end going like, look, I don't have any more blackmail. All I can say is let us try. Let us prove that we can steer humanity for ourselves without your interference, and that we can live on without you. And then it's extra good when like one of his last chapters, he's like, okay, I have nothing else. All I can do is actually beg you for a favor. Please help us get out of this situation. And then she does it. She helps him out because he's such a Chad.
Also, another big drop was that Goto was the jackass that kind of made them like have to develop this system, and this is like his clone or whatever.
I mean, the whole cloning, like 2188 is fascinating to me. Like the things that transpired in that timeline are so good. And like anytime 2188 would pop up, me and Bradley would get so hyped because it's like, oh, more big lore drops are coming. I think a shocker one Bradley reacted to really fun was finding out Morimura and it was the person who fucked over the world with the nanomachine technology.
Man, and honestly, there's so many people in this game where I say so many. There's like 3 or 4 that I can point to and be like, "This is all your fault." But I don't know. Once you get to 3 or 4 or more people like that, I'm like, it was all them, and it kind of reinforces this idea that like, you people who are inheriting humanity who just came out of this simulation, you need to be better than us, and you are better than us by virtue of the fact that you actually woke up from this nightmare.
Even after finishing the game, it didn't dawn on me nor Bradley that this is happening across the entire universe. This exact same plot line, and like, the game doesn't make it explicitly clear until you read an interview. Every time you lose the loop, your body gets killed off, or like your body dies, you go brain dead, and then the nanomachines break you down, and another baby is made in the pod that you died in. So Ryoko Rishino Nome programs these robots to appear to genocide humanity for all eternity, and it's through like, it's like, if you don't realize this is even happening, you can't stop it until it's too late, which is the plot of the game we're playing. They only have 2 loops left to figure it out. Or 3 loops left to figure it out before the whole thing gets shut down.
What's incredible is the ratio of like how cosmic the scale of the story is, but like how grounded the motivations for the people who caused it were. Like this one guy just missed his girlfriend. This girl was pissed off she got manipulated. Like this other guy just was rich and he didn't want to die, and he's like, I'm gonna do whatever it takes to stop that from happening.
Like Bradley pointed out that like also everyone's reasons to showing up for the final fight are very different, but they show up nonetheless.
Yeah, and man, it's just like their reasons for showing up to the final battle are also all really grounded, because for a lot of them it's just as simple as like, I don't know, man, I'm in love with this boy, so I'm gonna fight off like millions of kaiju, like, because I love this boy.
Iori went up my rankings when you realized that she's the first person to go fight. Iori doesn't know there's gonna be other Sentinels helping her. She just fucking does it because she's like, I have this robot and I'm gonna fight, because
instantly shoots her up tiers.
I know. I think this game, I benefited a lot from playing it with Bradley again, because I am of the opinion that there's no human, aside from the dev team themselves, that knows the entire story of this game. By that I mean, like, the game does a phenomenal job at telling you the grand strokes of the story. Everyone understands the basic story and what the fight is by the end. They did a great job at that. The devil's in the details, though, where it's like, why did this character act like this in this scene? Like, even a small thing like there's a scene where there's this thing where Miura starts his chapters and he looks off into the sunset and he's like, the sunset's the same no matter where I am. It's like, okay, cute, but what's the significance of that? You find out that on the day that him and Chihiro, his little sister, moved in with the Karabes, the sunset looked just like that. That's why the sunset is such an imprint in his mind. But then it's so easy to miss that child Chihiro, who has Morimura's brain in her, still has that innate virtue of being Chihiro, where she also looks at the sun and says the same thing. Man. It's like this extremely minor detail, and the game is littered with those, which is why, like, I am still holding on to this idea that I'm going to make this cohesive video that's going to connect, that's going to go through the story chronologically and explain the little details. Stuff like, oh, notice that Natsuno has a Band-Aid in this scene, which means it's after she got shot in the cheek. Or notice that this scene takes place before Sekigahara loses his memory and stuff like that. So,
man.
We'll close it out, Bradley. Who were your fave characters / fave storylines?
Ooh, so man, here's the problem, right? I just know for a fact the character, every single time I got the most excited to see them from the start to the end was Goto.
Man, his prologue really teases you so hard.
And man, like, I feel like until I re-unlocked him, I never really knew if he was a good guy or a bad guy.
They do a really good job at making him ambiguous.
But he really is just the coolest. He's like Light Yagami on steroids. He's like an L on steroids, even better.
But he's so human, and he's got a good heart, and like
he just wants to know, man.
He just wants to know.
He just wants to know.
Any other faves?
Yeah. So as for like my favorite, because a lot of the different character stories have like a different narrative structure. Whereas like Juro, you start from the same room every day, but you can branch out to very different locations. Mm-hmm. Ninji, you're always going to be in the same location no matter what. Some characters you might like be in this timeline in one branch, and in this timeline in another branch, and then this. Mm-hmm. So you know, I just like I think my favorite like structure was Ninji's, because I think having that very static situation like really highlights the character growth he's going through on each loop.
It's so easy to miss that you see the start, like, you see a scene with Tomi that is in the train station, that is the start of the conversation he has every time you go into his story. And what that tells you is that he fucked up so bad in the real world in that scenario that it's haunting his mind pretty much. And that's why he keeps going back there in this weird dream state, which I think is really fascinating. Also, it happened to come up after we knew time travel was fake. And then we finally got to Denji's story, which is a looping story. It's like, wait, what is actually happening here?
Man. And you know what? I gotta also mention this because it just reminded me. Another reason I think the twist about like that like almost final big twist about the whole thing being virtual all along hits really hard is because like the game's been throwing it in our face the entire time. Like
they really have.
There was an entire character's storyline about looping in a virtual world that's so realistic nobody knows the difference between it and being real.
I've seen the one complaint I've ever seen about the narrative really was like I went to a GameFAQs post for some reason. I forgot what I was doing there. I think I was trying to figure out if anyone... I was trying to get like a list of all the mechanics that happened in post-game because I was like, what the fuck just happened to me? And someone was like, 13 Sentinels is a super well-told story, but a not interesting story. And then I had to think about it. It's like, what? I don't agree because, okay, he's like, I could kind of guess everything that was happening. It was like, okay, first of all, I doubt you could. You could guess the... No, there's no way you can spoil... You could spoil the concept of the game. You cannot spoil what actually happens in the story very succinctly. There's so much that happens. Like
you would get so lost and confused.
You could not spoil what's happening with the Morimuras, what's happening with 426. You cannot spoil what like Tomi Kisaragi's finding out.
I think you forget more about the game than you actually end up remembering when you walk out of it. Like, there's just so much that happens.
It's fresh in my mind, but yeah, maybe like I forgot a lot when I was playing with Bradley. There was a lot of stuff like, oh my god, this happens here. Like I forgot this happens.
Yeah, like y'all just finished it, but
and like my takeaway was like the reason why you might feel like the story is not interesting is because it's taking so much and making something new of it. It's taking every trope you've ever seen and creating a new story, but also when a twist happens, it almost never feels cheap. There were so many times where a twist happened and Bradley would be like, oh, I kind of felt like this could be the case, but I didn't have evidence, or like, wow, I didn't see this coming, but now that they say it, it all makes so much sense. And it happens all the time.
You know, there's like the little nagging bit in your brain, like, but what if it is this? Yeah. And then it happens and you're like, oh my god. And then like I think that's also really good. And like you said, like it's taking those stereotypes and understanding why they're good or why they're loved, but then transitioning to a form that makes it interesting and well engaging, I think also is what elevates it. Because if you tried to be 100% original with this and try to tell a story like this in this way, I don't think anyone could follow it. Like if you try to do like Scarlet Nexus story, which is about like
all this new fantasy stuff,
it's and you try to do it this way, you get lost. You need some sort of grounded reality or storyline that you are familiar with to keep your threads intact.
By using tropes, they could tell a more complex story because they're using such simple ingredients. That's such a good way to like look at it, because like I know what an android is, I know what body snatching is, I know what a giant robot is and what threat that poses and all that. Joe, you very quick if you had any favorite characters. I think we talked about it when we talked about it. I remember you really liking Nenji.
Oh yeah, I really liked Nenji a lot. I just thought he was cool. He was just fun because he was just basically Yosuke. I'm trying to think who else. Natsuno was. I don't know how I feel about Natsuno. I feel like I wish she was more in it or she had more involvement. But at the same, she's just a nice little girl to have around.
But like when you realize this, like again, maybe one day you'll replay this or watch a playthrough. But like the things you could connect, that BJ getting those logs that Natsuno's helping him with are so important for the future of humanity and the plot. So like,
I think
everyone plays a very interesting.
And the who BJ actually is, I forget what his name is. Huh?
Mira.
Yeah, Mira are two really good characters. Hijiyama, like I really, really like, and like his is a cool arc because he has to come to terms with like what he like, that he's like, maybe I'm actually gay, or like just like going through all of that and like having to transition from like this 1940s world to this modern world is just a very fun story.
The different way that him and Miura do it are so interesting. My favorites are Goto, Miura, Ogata, and Natsuno. I think are all my faves. Shoutouts to Miwako. I came out of this playthrough really appreciating 426. I think he's such an interesting character now that I think about it, and like who he was originally and who he became to save the world. And also the twist with the meta chips is so clever to me. I think it's done so well, and like it's not just there to be fancy and like tie gameplay into story. It's also the only reason why this loop's gonna be different. Like, or like the only reason why the combat in this loop is gonna function significantly different is because now they have Gen 4 Sentinels and now they have the meta systems, and like that's really cool.
I also them tying, it's kind of ridiculous, but them tying in like, okay, well we can do this thing because the code of our whole program is actually based off this old video game I used to play.
But then like having worked in a game company, it's like, okay, there's 12 people in a spaceship and you gotta save humanity. Are you not gonna take the shortcut that's provided to you? I think that's so good. And like it wasn't supposed to be bad. The problem is, and like this is really easy to miss because it happens so early in most people's playthrough, Ryoko Shinonome saw that there is no future for humanity and that they're all self-egotistical fuckers because everyone in that spaceship, except for Miura and Natsuno, who are sweet baby boys and girls, was fucked up. So she is like, okay, I'm just going to fuck humanity and I'm going to make the Daimos actually show up and kill humanity. And they're going to be based off of the terraforming machinery. So she and Morimura kind of doom humanity together, and then you could blame Sekigahara for blowing up the space station. You could blame fucking Renya Goto for being a shady motherfucker. There's so many people you can blame there at the end. All that to say, recently I came to the realization that I think this is a top 3 game for me. I think it edges out Kingdom Hearts 2 out of that list.
That's crazy.
Because man, replaying that game was really fun.
I think
there is no game like it. That's the thing. There's nothing even close to it, in my opinion.
I think what also clinches it for me, not my top 5, but what makes me go like, this is a really special game, and I think it's really worth if you should check it out, is the fact that it has an actual gameplay element to it that's fun, which sounds ridiculous.
The game has game?
Yeah, but it's honestly what kept me really, compared to VLR, which I kind of fell off of, and was just getting really tiresome to go through. What kept me on this game was that the game side of it was actually substance, and was there. It was giving me a challenge. It was letting me actually play a game, and it wasn't kind of like a blocker to the next zone. Mm-hmm. And it still was, but it wasn't in such an impedance that I hated doing it.
And also another thing, just final, the theme of this game I think is so beautiful. It's inheriting humanity is what one of the songs called. I also think this is the core theme of the game, because Tamao Karabe from 2188 made sure to also bring over human culture, which is why they live in different textures. It's you're going to understand what being human was, and then we're going to reveal to you what you need to do to continue humanity, and you're going to do that all over the galaxy. It's ultimately a beautiful thing, but then also the trials and tribulations they go through because of the interferences makes it an even more beautiful story, because it also shows how humanity can destroy itself but also overcome itself.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's very beautiful.
Yeah.
Bradley, final rating on the game, and how does it stack up against our Willard Bradley games?
Man, because just earlier today, one of our friends asked us to rate Elden Ring, and I think the score I gave Elden Ring was at the absolute worst, it's a 9 out of 10 for me. The only reason it might not be a 10 out of 10 is because I'm it has great sound design, but not a banger of a soundtrack.
Yeah.
I'm 13 Sentinels, I like everything about it, and it also has a banger of a soundtrack. I've been listening to the soundtrack during work and other stuff.
And it's cool how the soundtrack, I think very few soundtracks invoke the feeling of the game. I can picture certain scenes that play the songs, but then also all the battle music is so evocative of the themes of the games, which is it's a little reachy. Some people might not hear it the way I do, but the meshing of instruments and then the electronic music and the way it goes together. Every song is kind of overcoming itself. It's about rising up, they all crescendo in a cool way, especially the final battle song, where the fucking main theme starts playing once you get to the final wave of the final battle. That shit is so hype. Is it better than VLR 999 and what's the other one we played? Somnium Files? I think that's all the story games I forced Bradley to play.
Man, it's kind of wild because one thing that you just cannot argue 13 Sentinels has an edge on is the destruction mode. It gives you something to do. The destruction mode is so much better than the puzzle rooms.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Easily. So I guess story-wise for me, it comes down to I think thematically 13 Sentinels has, I think, just kind of, I don't know. It's really happy and sweet, and it tells a bunch of different stories. Mm-hmm. 999 and VLR. Man, I have some really impactful memories with that because 13 Sentinels has mind-blowing plot twists, but I don't want to tell myself I got numb to plot twists by the end, but it's because there's so many plot twists, they all get lost with each other, but I can think to specific points in the run of both 999 and VLR where it was just like, oh, remember that 120-minute stretch that was back to back to back to back, like the 5 biggest plot twists in a row, all topping each other. I'm just like,
I think what this clears VLR. I think VLR is and 999 get a little messy when you get into the details of how the plot works, especially because unfortunately VLR sets up a lot of things that don't get resolved in its sequel.
True.
That's a
13
huge bummer.
Sentinels is a standalone thing, man.
And like, I think they could also make a very cool sequel of this game. For example, if this is happening in different Earths, how do those Earth cultures grow? And what happens if they go into conflict with each other? What happens if they start sending some of their consciousness somehow through space and they show up in your simulation? Furthermore, what happens when the 1.2 million people in every residential district have to come to terms with the fact that they're not real and that these 15 kids are special, actual human people? Will they start worshiping these people? Will they go and revolt because, like, oh, they get to decide how we're gonna, like, go on with our reality because they're the real ones and we're AI? Like, they're gonna fight for their own survival. They could make stories off of this, and they could also flesh out what happens in 2188. They could also never touch this again and leave it its own perfect little thing. I wouldn't want a sequel unless they're like, we really want to keep telling stories here because we're that passionate. Because this game has so much passion in it. I think the Uchikoshi games are more rough around the edges, unfortunately. So they got some stuff. But I'm glad I got Bradley to enjoy multiple story games.
Yeah, dude, some great sci-fi stories. And man, I came up with a good hypothetical question.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, good.
Related to 13 Sentinels, if we're ready to sign it out.
We are ready to sign it out.
So imagine Vanillaware, like they tweet on their Twitter, and you tweet on Twitter.
You do
and
do
then
that.
It's like, so like we're excited to announce a brand new 13 Sentinels universe project coming in the next 2 years, and then in like late 2023. They're like, keep an eye out at the Game Awards this year. And then there's a trailer, and it says Vanillaware, and a 2 pops up on screen. But instead of 13 Sentinels 2, it says second 13 Sentinels game. And then they announce it's a mobile game, and it's called 13 Sentinels Cafe, and it's on one of the planets that was colonized.
Yo!
And that version of Iori has a little bakery,
Yo!
and humanity made little chibi robot versions of the Daimos, and you have to make enough cookies to feed all the Daimos coming to your cafe.
Where's the hypothetical in this?
The hypothetical is, if they announce that at the Game Awards of 2023, what would your honest reaction be? Would you be a little bit salty but still get it? Would you just be mad? Would you just be hyped?
I'd prefer 13 Sentinels Fighters or Muso.
I was thinking of Fighter 2, dude.
Speaking of,
They're also well characterized. Like, you could have different movesets.
You could absolutely, yeah.
I would be like, ooh. I would be very confused. I would be like, oh, okay. I still have 13 Sentinels though, so that's all good for me.
Yeah.
I prefer the game where the gacha characters are just different universe versions of, like, Ogata without pompadour, Tomi Kisaragi hair long,
Fujiyama inside the Okino girl outfit.
Hijiyama wearing the Yakisoba Pond mascot outfit. Like,
Oh my god!
that I'm more down for because fuck it. And also, I want super rare BJ. We'll just leave that statement as is. That's fine. Okay, that's everything. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for talking 13 Sentinels with me. Bradley, this was going to be number 2 in Game of the Year, and you blocked me, and then you played it eventually. I think I was alone. Joe hadn't played it either. That was crazy. What a fight. That was a fight equal to them fighting the Daimos. I fucking got it up there.
You did good.
Like the one.
Pathologic beat it. Come on, Bradley. You know better now. Bradley knows better. He off screen he told me he was wrong, and then he was like, you can tell them, but I'm not going to admit it because I'm funny like that. That's what he said. All right, bye.
Bye.